right, or you're going to say Social Democrats, Liberal Party, Labour Party, and so on and so forth. This was exactly what was invoked at that time. But Awolowo was able to put Yoruba land right in the middle. Not totally socialist, not totally capitalist. And he ensured that his own philosophy of socialism centers on labor and benefit to the ordinary people. So in other words, if you look at his policy primarily, you will say why he was encouraging the capitalism to flourish, he was also at the same time encouraging socialism by ensuring that people's welfare is taken into strong consideration. And as many of us who grew up at that time to witness the progress in Yoruba land will say today that it was his fault. If he had not, if he had allowed Yoruba to go alone, we wouldn't be suffering. Yes, it's true. But the point he was insisting on at that time was the whole country must have the same benefit that the Yorubas had in Western Nigeria. So with that kind of situation, we will look at it this way, that without his effort, perhaps the Yoruba land would have even been worse than what it is today. Unfortunately, as I continue to say, well, people of my generation in particular should blame themselves for what is happening in Nigeria now, because we were the first set that benefited from Awolowo's welfarism program. I mean, he started the free education in 1955. A majority of us, particularly those who were born in 1945, even 1942 and so on and so forth, they all benefited from the free education. And the system that he put in place at that time was such system that nobody, it doesn't matter how poor your parents are in Yoruba land, everybody have access to education. The system was so progressive such that even if after the free primary education, even if your parents cannot afford to send you to secondary school, you have the middle school to go, which was called modern schools at that time, an equivalent of today's JSS, or what do they call it? So now, if you go through that, which was very, 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 very cheap, if you go through that, at the end of that 3 years, you have many options. Well, you could go to school of nursing, you will be paid while you are in training. You could go to school of agric, you will be paid while you are in training. You could go to trade center, for technical education, you will be paid while you are in training. So in other words, everybody have an opportunity to develop, to grow in his government. And after the modern three, after all this professional training and all those sort of things, if you want to go further, the opportunities were there. So you now discover that people of our generation, if you find any member of our generation born between 1945, upward, and he is not educated, perhaps he was not living in Western region, because the opportunities were there. Many of us became, many of us who became professors, doctors, engineers are children of the downtrodden, completely downtrodden children whose parents ordinarily would not have even been able to send them to school. But because that opportunity was provided, everybody was able to grow. And the beautiful thing is, whenever you finish whatever training you go into, job was waiting for you. It doesn't matter. You go to school of nursing, immediately you finish at the school of nursing, you are posted to anywhere in Western region to work. You go to the school of agric, immediately you finish at the school of agric, you are posted to agricultural plantations. You go to trade center, immediately you finish, you are posted to various companies, even ministries and all that. That was the Yoruba land that we grew to know. That was the Yoruba land that you don't find, as we used to say. Yes, People may not be millionaires, but you don't find poor people, because there are opportunities here and there for everybody. Even the market women too, they have what they call cooperative system at that time. There is cooperative bank where you can save as much as an equivalent of today's 20 kobo, 2 shillings, and at the end of 3 months, you can borrow triple of whatever you save to start whatever trading you intend to go into. So it was a society that will do very, very well, if not, unfortunately, because the military came into power. Now, as we stand today, I want to believe that there should be a completely new social order that can bring us back to the template that Awolowo put in place between 1954 even up to 1966. Because up to 1966, the systems were still normal. It was unfortunately that the military came in 1966 and,
Sir,
disrupted everything.
sir,
Yeah.
can I assist you and add to just what you're saying? Can we sequence it so that we can really enjoy that book? Because sir, I mean, you've adequately just given us a fantastic opportunity to glean into everything you've documented in chapter 1 and more. But if we move right into the very next chapter, sir, it talks about
Okay.
chapter 2 talks about Awolowo himself, and it's something that you've already spoken about extensively. But also just from the way the book, the way you have written chapter 2, I think I have another line of questioning for chapter 2. So, sir, you were going to,
Okay.
in chapter 2, you talked about Awolowo as an individual, and you did a lot of work there to just really document him, because a lot of people think that and the personality that is required to perhaps turn around the fortunes of the Yoruba people has to be somebody who is from maybe the Harvard education, a son of an elite, somebody who is probably connected to a politician or somebody whose father or mother was a ruler in the First or Second Republic. But if we look at Awolowo's story, it's a very curious story in terms of the fact that he was a young
Yeah.
man educated in Ikenne. His first job was a typist clerk, just
A
fresh out of
typist,
secondary.
yes.
His second
Yes.
job, he was a trader. Third job, he was a newspaper reporter with Daily Times. I mean, back
That's
then,
right.
in the 1930s, he organized the Nigerian Produce Traders Association. He worked to
Exactly.
organize and build Nigerian Motor Transport Union. He later went to get his
Exactly.
BSc in commerce. All this in the 1930s. In the 1940s, he became editor of the Nigerian Worker newspaper. In 1940 as well, also Nigerian Youth Movement in Ibadan was formulated. In 1943, he became the co-founder of the Trade Union Congress. In 1946, he received while receiving his BSc, he formed the Egbe Omoduduwa, and I think nothing
In
sums up
London.
the person that is Awolowo better than this speech written by Chief Akintola. And I would just like to read, for those who have had an opportunity to read, to get the book, because page 35 of the book, and I'm going to be reading from paragraph 2, where it's open quote, in the eulogy delivered by Chief Akintola on the occasion of Awolowo's 50th birthday in March 1959. He said, to Chief Awolowo, passivity is a bane, and inaction an anathema. How could it be otherwise
Yes.
to a life which thrives on industry and to a man with
That's right.
fanatical faith in hard work?
In
That
hard
was
work.
why
Yes.
that was why he made himself a terror to the demagogues and to the mountebanks, who will neither a
Exactly.
chart nor a ruler believed that they could steer the Nigerian ship of
The
the state
chief of
to
state
to
to
its
its
destiny.
destination.
No pilot
Yes.
has a clearer vision, none a
Vision.
keen, none a
Inner
keener
sense
sense
of mission.
mission
Than
than
Awolowo.
Chief
That's true. Yes.
Awolowo. So,
Absolutely.
sir, tell us about the man that is Awolowo, just as you've written in chapter 2.
D. Please,
Yes.
D,
And
quickly.
before you go, sir,
Oh,
one minute.
okay.
Yes, before you go, sir, there's something I need you to address, because I've heard that a lot from people, and it continues to shock me. You mentioned carpet crossing, and I believe you were referring to 1951, right? Can you hear me, sir?
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah,
can you hear me, sir?
it's breaking, but I can hear you slightly. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. From what we have researched, and from articles we have read, and from the sage view himself, we do not see evidence of a carpet crossing from NCNC to AG to give Awolowo that victory that has become kind of a famous story that we hear of a lot today. So I
Okay,
think it's something. Yes, and you mentioned it again now, which was a little bit shocking, because I
good,
don't see evidence of a carpet crossing. I never saw it.
good.
And there's no name, not one name, of an NCNC member that crossed to AG to give Awolowo victory in 1951. Yes, there were members that crossed from IPP at Ibadan. But even
Yeah,
at
that is
that,
Agbo
A,
yeah.
yes, AG was actually ahead, because of the 80 seats that was allocated to the Western region, AG already had 38 seats, and NCNC had
Yeah.
24 seats. And then the independents had the seats across them. NCNC did not have any seats in the core Yoruba states. They only had in the Midwestern regions, that was part of Western region at that time, and Lagos. And these are from the Sage's biography himself, which we have
Yes.
covered here. So when you mention the carpet crossing again, I didn't want you to brush it aside. I want you to
Okay.
kind of elaborate on
Thank,
it, sir.
thank,
Yeah.
thank you very much. When you were reading, when you were putting together materials like this, you have to read across board. There are some NCNC men who had this belief in their writings that people like Akinfosile was made to cross carpet, which is not true. People like Odeleye was also made to cross carpet, which was not true. Akinyemi Obe from Iwo was also made to cross carpet according to their record, which was not true. So, but when you are writing something like this, the other part, you have to shift in the thoughts from the opposing side. So that's why I mentioned the carpet crossing thing. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So that was why I mentioned the carpet crossing thing. So really, as you have rightly said, there was no serious threat to the action group victory in the Western House of Assembly. Can you hear me? Hello? Denise?
Absolutely. We can hear you,
Okay.
sir. We can hear you rapidly, sir.
Oh, okay. That's exactly what happened there. Now, on the person of Awolowo, the truth is people like us would only be able to say what we read about him. But my own personal encounter with him will sum up my own assessment of him as a person, as a politician, and as a Yoruba man. Now, sometimes in 1983, shortly before the election of 1983, Jakonde set up an primary electoral committee, which was to conduct the primary election in Kwara State. This was 1982. I happened to be one of the members of the electoral team that went to Kwara. And indeed, I was the youngest of all of them, because that time I was just 30 plus. So when we got there, our own method of doing public opinion poll before you go into elections was what I did when we got there. Because then I just returned to Nigeria from the US. I did the public opinion poll and I saw clearly that it appears Cornelius Adebayo was going to win the primary. We had the primary. Cornelius Adebayo won the primary against Papa Olawoyin. But Otu Adewumi and other members of the committee believed that Cornelius Adebayo rigged that election, which was not true because we were all there. We all saw it. So in our report, we were to report back to UPN Secretariat that the primary election should be conducted because Adebayo rigged the primary election. But I said, no, he did not rig because we saw everything. So it was only me who disagreed with the idea of saying that Adebayo rigged the election. And since the committee had they prepared the report already, I wrote my own one-man opinion. And I took it to our Papa Awolowo's house. I got there. At the end of the day, I was able to see him. That was the first time ever I would sit down with him. So I gave him my own report. He read it, and he asked me a few questions, and I answered. And he said, "But your committee said Adebayo rigged, and they should go and reconduct the primary." And I said, "Fine," but he didn't rig. I was very sure. He took time to educate me about Olawoyin. Well, poor me. I mean, listening to how Olawoyin suffered with the action group against the MPC and all those sort of things, I agreed that we'll go back to Kwara. To cut the long story short, we went to Kwara again, we did it again, Adebayo won. The second time now, Awolowo now called me. He sent Jack Onde to send for me. And I went to him. I sat down. He asked me again, what happened? And I narrated the thing. Now, what struck me most is, as small as I was, Baba Awolowo allowed me to do all the talking that I wanted to do. Talking for almost 35 minutes or 40 minutes. He did not interrupt me. At the end of my briefing, he asked me questions and I was answering him. Then he said, my dear, what is your opinion? That strikes me because, I mean, Awolowo telling me what was my opinion. Then I said, sir, in my own opinion, Adebayo has won and we should allow him to be our flag bearer. Then he repeated it again and said, but your committee said it is better they reconduct the primary again. What do you think about that? Then I said, sir, if we should go back to reconduct that primary, we will be giving other contenders an opportunity to team up with Adebayo in order to disgrace Olawoyin, and that's not going to be good for that man. That if that should happen, that will be the end of Olawoyin's political career in Kwara. Then Baba said, okay, you think so? I said, sir, that's my belief because already I can hear Usman Laro, Abatemi, all others, Usman Laro, Abatemi, and what other 4 other persons. Anyway, I mentioned all of them. And he said, would you want to go back with them? I said, sir, I will go with them if you say I should go. But I strongly believe that the way those people are talking, there could be a gang up against Olawoyin. It was clear that Baba Awolowo had sympathy for Olawoyin. Ordinarily, he would have wished to field Olawoyin at all costs as the gubernatorial candidate of the UPN in order to compensate him. So we went the third time, and as soon as we got there, Usman Laro, Abatemi, Elias, all of them said they all stepped down for Adebayo and openly told their supporters to vote for Adebayo, that they will never allow UPN headquarters in Lagos to impose Olawoyin on them. At the end of the day, Adebayo won, he became the UPN candidate, and Olawoyin lost. And Baba approved it immediately. So that gave me an impression of a man who is principled, who will not influence you under any condition, who will listen to you. It doesn't matter your level of your age or your level of in the party, and somebody who knows exactly what should be the position of a leader in a contest. So that's why I said all we read about him is a very, very disciplined man. There's no doubt about that. Awolowo does not see you as a Christian, especially Muslim, especially or traditionally, especially. He gave respect to everybody. And if you look at the way he ran his government, believe you or not, it was, as I used to say, it was Jeremiah Obafemi Awolowo who first started Muslim pilgrimage board in Nigeria. When he used Baba Gbadamoshi of Ikorodu as the chairman of the Muslim pilgrimage board, it was he, not even Ahmadu Bello, who was an Alhaji or whatever. So he gave everybody an opportunity to practice whatever he wants. But one thing he does not condone, which I think is lacking into these politicians mostly, is the fact that you must serve. If you have an opportunity to be elected, you must be seen to serve the people. And you cannot, if you have only one car before you become whatever, under Awolowo, you are not even allowed to have extra car. Don't understand. If you have only one house, you maintain only that one house when you're in government. So those are the things that makes a big difference between him and today's politicians.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
You've extensively covered just what our law is, and every time we lean into both the book and the verbal historical accounts of our elders' accounts with the sage, it continues to baffle me about the kind of person he lived or he was or he is, because it's really the consistency of the integrity across multiple accounts is really astounding. I would skip chapter 3 of the book because we've talked extensively about just the interparty politics of AG, and I would just like to talk about chapter 4 of the book. By the way, because we've gotten a lot of back channel messages, I'll just quickly refresh the room. Today we are discussing Awoism, Exemplary, Integrity and Welfarism by Dr. Layo Adeniyi. It's a brilliant book. It's available online. Before the end of the lecture, we will do our best to make sure that everybody gets a link to the where you can, if you can buy it online. So it's very important that we're working very hard to pin that link to the room to find where we can get the ebooks to be purchased. So right now we are discussing chapter 4 of the book, and we'll be talking
Yeah,
about.
please, D. Maybe we should ask our father who whether it's possible, right, to share uh, to give access to the people to have that copy of the book, or if there is an online version that is there to be purchased. Maybe you can just let us know.
Okay. As we continue, sir. So, just like you said,
Yeah, I will talk to my publishers about that and see how we can, as a matter of fact, we slow down the cells because of the launching.
Excellent, sir.
So that's why, yeah, it's not yet publicly presented. So that's why it's not been available, you know,
For us, okay.
for sale. Yes.
But if it's possible for us to pre-order, a lot of our nationalists, when we're populating our libraries, we do have books that are from Yoruba nationalists like yourself and Mr. Dele Ogun, where we just basically pre-order or start waiting for it to come out, or we pencil it in our calendars for the published date. It really is very helpful for us to keep track of, you know, these works that you're doing. They are sort of like maps, pathways for us to find our way back to Yoruba Nation. And it is
Yes,
very
sir.
incredibly important that such books are right there on top of the shelf for us to lean on and to read and to go back to from time to time. We do not take your presence with us today for granted, because we are very
Thank
confident
you.
that a lot of the opportunities that we have today to be able to speak to you, we might not be so lucky. So we are so grateful for every opportunity to not only speak to you in person today, but also to, when you're not around, go through book reading sessions with other Yoruba nationalists. And this is an opportunity in Yoruba Nation today where we actually take books written and we just discuss it. So, without any further ado, chapter 4 of your book talks about one of the most painful turning points
In Awolow's life.
in Awolowo's life, and also for Yoruba peoples as well. Um,
Yes.
well, as Yoruba peoples, it showed about the failure of how a central system or unitary system controlled by peoples who are not of Yoruba people can cause anarchy in the Yoruba
House.
nation.
Yes.
We talk about the
Yes.
imposition of federal soldiers and how, for the Yoruba people's witnessed massive scale election rigging and manipulations for the first time in recorded history, especially since we gained independence. But more importantly, I will always speech summed it up. I'm going to read his speech, and then I'd like you to give us your thoughts on chapter 4 of the book, sir. So, but let me just quickly try and read his speech. So, Awolowo says, and I quote, I must say, this may have to be taken up with a higher tribunal, that I do not agree with your lordship's verdict and the premise on which
Yes.
it is based. For upwards of 30 years, I have been in politics in
Yes.
Nigeria. During this period, I've operated in various important theaters in the life of this great federation. I have, with others,
Yes.
fought against British imperialism with all my might
Yes.
and with all the talent that it pleased God to give me. Together with other
Yes.
nationalists, some of whom are here with me, many of whom are not with me here, we have successfully thrown out British imperialism and enthroned Africans in positions which 20 or more years ago they never dreamt of occupying. I have been an unyielding advocate of a federal constitution for Nigeria. I have, all along with leaders in the
Exactly.
country, been a very active and constructive participant in all the constitutional conferences which have taken place since 1953 and which have culminated not only in the attainment of independence but in the production of a constitution which Nigerians are very proud of. This constitution is now being
Yes.
gradually violated. I've also fought against anything which savours of injustice. It is thus an irony of history that, as one of the architects of Nigeria's independence, I have spent almost half of Nigeria's 3 years of independence under one form of confinement or the other. Since 1957, I have
Oh,
fought,
yes.
Lordship remarked, with vigor against the feudal system in northern region and for its
Mm.
eradication. I have also fought to prevent the spread of this evil political system to other parts of Nigeria. During the same period, I have strongly advocated the breaking up of the northern region into more states in order to have true federalism in Nigeria, to preclude the permanent subservience of the people of Nigeria to the autocratic ruling caste in the north, and to preserve peace and unity in the country. In short, I've always
Yes.
fought for what I believe in and without relenting and regardless of consequences to myself. I have no doubt, and I say this without any spirit of immodesty, that in the course of my political career, I have rendered these services to the country, which historians and the coming generations will certainly regard as imperishable. I'll yield for now, and I'll
Yes.
just like you to give us your thoughts on this very difficult period, the sentencing, the harassment, intimidation, the bullying of the premier of the Western region, of our sage and the leader of the Yoruba peoples, and his, his subsequent incarceration. And I'd like you to just, walk us through that whole experience from a Yoruba nationalist point of view. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Here, when this was going on, I was in class 2 in the secondary school, and it was a terrible situation in Yoruba land at that time. Uh, if not because of the position he took and the pronouncement he made, that 1963 would have been the beginning of the end of Nigeria, and Western region Yoruba land would have seceded. Even though we were small, funny enough, we were also involved because the emotion was very high in Yoruba land. It was like incarcerating all the people just for this one single person. Schools went closed, hospitals, nothing functioned again just because they felt that Awolowo being sentenced is like sentencing the whole of the Yorubas. There was what we call wet year. Wet year means put petrol and put fire. People were killed at random, houses were burnt, a lot of nasty things happened. We became so much afraid that those of us who were small began to see Awolowo as a kind of, do we say, an angel or semi-god or something? Because the whole of Yoruba land believed very much that with the incarceration of Awolowo, Yoruba land is completely finished. But fortunately, he was allowed to make pronouncements. He was allowed to make announcements, and that when he came out to say people should not fight, they should not do anything, they should not, they should just go peacefully, that he is sure that he's coming, he will finish his jail term, he will come out, and the progress of Yoruba land will continue. That was what saved the situation at that time. I don't think there was any Yoruba man or woman of our age, or those who are older than us, maybe people like the age of Professor Akintoye and co, who will not know exactly how terrible it was. So it was, it is better imagined than, it is better imagined than witnessed. I don't think anything of that nature will ever happen again in Yoruba land. Somehow, when we now look at the young generations in Yoruba land of today, we begin to wonder why are, thank God, these children are no more as what do you call it?
Docile. Docile.
Exactly. Because that anybody could even attempt to do things like these politicians are doing in Yoruba land now is unimaginable. One person owning a car, owning this, owning that, and people are still hailing him and saying, to all of us is very strange. Because at that time, even you as a member of parliament, if you change your car to a new one, you are sure you are not going back to that house. Immediately they will raise somebody else to take for, because it means in the common parlance at that time, this is a thief. Oh, And once they report you to before the crisis came, once they report you to Awolowo that Honorable Layo Adeniyi has changed his car, the next question is, where did he get the money? So that was exactly what happened now when the situation got to that level. And I think we believe that the North deliberately did it because the way the Western regions was moving at that time, honestly speaking, it would have been like Dubai to UAE. Anybody who's been to UAE will know that UAE is just UAE in name. Dubai is the real economic melting pot of the country, and that was exactly what Yoruba land was. Would you believe if I tell you that in those years, 62, 63, Yoruba graduates from University of Ife, University of Lagos, and University of Ibadan were being sent to the US on service and many other African countries, such that you discover that if you say you are from Nigeria and you are a doctor or you are a graduate, everybody believes you must be a Yoruba person. So it really sent us back completely, and that was why Yoruba land people, unfortunately, jubilated when the military took power in January 1966. Everybody thought things will go back to normal in Western region again. But like I said, very, very unfortunately, Ironsi came and then he scrapped the regional thing, and they took over everything that Western region had. They took over the Western Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation. They turned it to NTA. They took over the stadium. They turned it to National Stadium. Everything. You can say that everything that is national in Nigeria today originated from Western region, even including the Nigerian house in Tombabel Street in London today. That used to be Oduduwa House. So that tells you how far we have gone, and that's why majority of us who felt that this shouldn't happen to Yoruba land. That's why we embrace it, this idea of Yoruba nation, because we believe with Yoruba nation, things will go back to normal. All these political vagabonds in the country now will be, they'll be washed away. So that was it was a very, very terrible experience. Like I said, it's better imagined than witnessed. It was really, really, really. I don't think that Yoruba land will ever experience that kind of thing again, because there is even no such figure anymore anyway. So that's our situation.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think just the understanding of just how I think the right word is devastating and traumatic it was for the Yoruba peoples to
Oh
have
yes, it was.
a situation
It was.
where the Yoruba peoples no longer control the destiny of the Yoruba people's
Oh
affairs.
yes,
And
yes,
the premeditating
yes.
events went back to lead into what became a unification, a complete destruction of the Yoruba people's sovereignty, economic sovereignty, and the immediate conversion of all our Yoruba national assets into federal assets. And the Yoruba people have continued to suffer that injustice still today. Some of those
Yeah.
who were with the sage at the treason felony trial and are subsequently jailed just thought it would be good to mention their names: Chief Anthony Enaro, Mr. Latif Jakonde, Mr.
They are
Dapo
all gone.
Inichade,
They are all gone.
Mr. S.A. Onitiri, Mr.
Only
Gabi
TV,
Shashere,
yes.
Mr. Gabi
Yeah.
Shashere, Mr.
Shashure.
Sunday Ibietoma, and Mr.
Mm,
UI Nwaobiala. And those who
mm,
served jail terms with the sage are Mr. Oyesile, Mr. Umori,
mm,
Mr. Otubanjo. And those who had not been
mm.
tried are Mr. S.G. Ikoku and Mr. Ayo Adebanjo and
Odebanjo, yeah.
Mr. James Aluko. So let us
Yes.
move forward to chapter 5 of the book, where we talk about the Unity Party of Nigeria, which was basically founded on the principles of social democratic principles of the action group. And there we talk about some of the four main pillars of Awolowo's AG, where we talk about free and quality education, free healthcare, employment opportunity and social welfare for the elderly and the unemployed. And this became
Yes.
the basis of the formation of Unity Party, with
Yes.
um, erudite and names that till today continue to stand firm. We have some people who were members of that particular formation: Chief Michael Ajasin, Chief Jonathan Odebi, Chief Paula Ige, Chief Ibrahim Adesanya, Chief BC Onobanjo, Alhaji Latif Jakonde, Alhaji Ganyu Daudu, which is a very pristine name for me personally, for reasons I will disclose maybe in the future. Dr. Bafemi Ayotuga, Chief Josiah Sunday Olawoyin, and Alhaji Lam Adishina, and many others. So, sir, one a lot of Yoruba nationalists have challenges with Afenifere because we feel that Afenifere has folded into being very easily swayed into non-Yoruba values for the purpose of relevance, in the sense that your Afenifere would have been based on the principles of Awolowo, being one of the most important sociocultural groups to, defend Yoruba nationalism. But we've seen that since the days of the Unity Party, it's very difficult to find political institutions that enshrine the four main democratic principles, or democratic socialism principles, in terms of education, welfare, creation of jobs and employment opportunities, and also taking care of the elderly. So, sir, what are your thoughts on the comparison of the Unity Party of Nigeria, as written in chapter 5 of your book, sir? And you can just do side by side with what we currently have in the country in terms of these current political establishments that are basically designed for the purpose of exploitation of the indigenous people's natural resources to sustain the political hegemony, and also to create a fervent uh, political class that creates some billionaires and millionaires on the rights and minds of the indigenous people of Nigeria. So, what are your thoughts in comparison with the principles that we had in Unity Party? Thank you, sir.
And before you go, sir, hello.
Okay. Okay. Go
Yes,
ahead.
before that, I believe D has crossed to Second Republic, and I don't think we're done with First Republic yet. So there are one or two things I wanted you to address before we move there. And one is the issue of his joining of Gowon's government, right? That is a
Mm,
very gray area, and I don't think
mm,
we should cross to Second Republic without discussing it. According to Wale Soyinka's account of this in his own
yes.
biography, he said that there were attempts to court Awolowo, that Gowon said he needed Awolowo even more than the military. And there was also talks that there were attempts to actually kill him if he refused to join Gowon. So we want to know if there was some pressures on that part. And then the second question on the First Republic issue, was there really an attempt of Awolowo, the Awolowo that I know and his books that I've read, and actually his one of his core facets on Awoism is that violence is not an option. He
Yes.
was more into institutions. He was more like, let's
Yes.
build strong institutions, but never. So I mean, it becomes a paradox to actually say that he did plan to overthrow a government, because that was not something he believed in. So those are the two things I think we need to still kind of focus on before we cross to Second Republic. Thank you, sir. Yeah, yeah.
Thank
Hello,
you very
sir,
much.
and please don't
So,
forget to add that meeting with Awolowo and Chief Ojuku on the night before the Western region came back. If you had
Absolutely.
okay.
been privileged to read those excerpts as well, because it draws a lot of insight
Okay.
into his thinking, especially the meeting they
That's
had
right.
right before he returned back to Lagos after he was
That's
with in Chief Ojuku's chambers that evening. Thank you, sir.
right. Let's start from the Gowon's release, releasing him from jail. Immediately Ironsi took power, Awolowo wrote a letter to him requesting for his release. Well, a source in the military, who happened to be an uncle, said when when Awolowo's letter came to Ironsi, Ironsi called one of his countrymen to tell him about the letter, and they told him he should hold on for a while and get the government stabilized. So that was why he did not release Awolowo immediately. That's the version. But unofficially, which we wouldn't know what was behind the scene, immediately Gowon took over government. The first pronouncement he made was the release of Awolowo.
What would be the reason? What would be the reason of saying that, of telling Ironsi to hold on? What would be the reason for that, if any?
No. Ironsi, according to when Ironsi got the letter from Awolowo requesting for his release, Ironsi discussed it with Nwabweze. Let me be precise here. He discussed it with Nwabweze, who was then to prepare the what do you call it? The legal document on the unification. The truth of the matter is, it was the Igbos that introduced this unification we're talking about. So Nwabweze prepared it. And when Ironsi approached him, when Ironsi asked him that, Awolowo wrote a letter requesting for his release. Nwabweze told Ironsi to hang on and wait for the political terrain to stabilize. They've just taken over the government. So Awolowo's letter, they took over the government in January. Awolowo's letter came in February. So he told him to hang on. Meanwhile, the Hausas were already planning their own counter. So immediately they succeeded in July. The first thing Gowon did was to announce the release of Awolowo. And as I told you, Awolowo was
Sir,
becoming a kind of...
I'm sorry I'm cutting in, but did the
Yeah,
Igbos think that Awolowo's release was a threat to Ironsi's government in any way?
we
Just,
wouldn't
just
know.
okay, sir. All right.
We wouldn't know, but that was exactly what happened.
Yeah,
He
can I
did
can I
the
can I
bottom line
come in
is,
for a second, sir?
yes,
Yeah. So, from what I know, reading from Ademoyega, who was part of
Boyega, yes,
Adewale, who was part of the people who did the 1966 coup.
the January coup.
Yeah. So Ademoyega, which was orchestrated by Nzogu, according to Ademoyega, it was their plan that after the coup, they were going to turn Nigeria into a unitary system. So when Nzeogu was arrested in Lagos, when
Kaduna,
uh,
mm,
he
he
was
was
arrested in
arrested in Kaduna
Lagos.
and brought to Lagos.
Yeah,
Mm.
because he came to Lagos thinking he was going to be part of the government and go on, and
Dublin.
Danjuma and stuff arrested him and took him to Kirikiri. So what majority of the series of letter they were writing to Ironsi, Ademoyega and Nzogu and Co. was that it was their plan to turn Nigeria into a unitary government in order to reduce what's it called, corruption and things and that, which never happened. So I think that was, I don't know, but I think maybe that was what Ironsi was following to think, because Ironsi didn't prepare for all this that came to him. He wasn't well prepared, and he listens more to advisors rather than really for him doing what's needed to be done. So that was where they started building that unitary system that collapsed everything we know now in Yoruba nation.
So
The
I'm
I,
sorry
the
I
to
I
cut
the
just
in.
the
wanted to
unitary
add.
the,
1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay.
So the unitary system has always been uh okay. The unitary system has always been Zeke's idea on Nigeria long before the coup.
That's
Since
right, exactly.
yes. Now, the people that were running the show with Ironsi were actually Zikists. People like Nwodeki, Okigbo, and there was this third guy that consolidated all the regions. But all these guys, and Mbanifo, all these guys were already Zikist, and they were in the kitchen cabinet, that they were part of the inner groups of Ironsi. So my guess would have been that they knew that Awolowo was not going to support it. That was part of the fallout of Awolowo and Zik in the 50s. Before he went to, yes. So I'm
as
thinking
I
that
said,
my thought pattern is more or less that they wanted to keep Awolowo away because he was going to fight against any attempt to centralize the government, because he followed the Indian pattern, and the Indian pattern was regions based on ethnic affiliations.
yes, yes, yes.
Also, sir,
Now,
not
if you remember, Emola, if you remember in Boyega's book, Why We Struck, the Five Majors,
Yeah.
in his book, there was a portion where he mentioned that Ife Ajuna floated the idea of releasing Awolowo
Yeah.
and bringing him as possibly the prime minister.
Exactly.
Now, exactly. So now, when Ironsi took power and Awolowo was writing for his release, according to my source, it was Nwabuese he mentioned it to. And Nwabuese told him to hang on until the political terrain stabilizes. So they were waiting for the political terrain to stabilize. We wouldn't know what is behind the scene, but that was what happened between them. Now, but unfortunately for them, the terrain did not stabilize. Danjuma and Co. overthrew his government. They brought in Gowon as the head of state. Immediately, Gowon took advantage of the situation and announced the release of Awolowo. Some school of thought said Gowon did that because, as far as the Northerners were concerned, it was Igbo's coup that wiped out all Northern officers and Yoruba officers. So it was like placating the Yorubas to release Awolowo. Now, that was one school of thought. But the thing is, immediately Gowon released Awolowo, the Yorubas did not wait for anything. It was jubilation all over the country, all over Yoruba land. And the Yoruba started praising Gowon, thanking him, singing for him, doing all that kind of thing, for releasing their man. Now, when Gowon now wanted to form his cabinet, that was when he said he needed Awolowo even more than the military. And he made Awolowo vice chairman of the Supreme Council next to himself. So it was in that kind of situation, we shouldn't forget that somebody who released you from jail and say he wants you to come and help him serve his government, you find it very difficult to say no. More so that at that time, Gowon himself was maybe 30 years old or 31. So he needed somebody with experience. And immediately, Awolowo got into the government. All the former NPC, NC, Action Group, he brought them into that cabinet. So that was what happened on Awolowo's appointment to serve in Gowon's government. That was that. Now the other one is you talk about the Second Republic and this republic. Hello? Hello?
We are hearing you, sir. I'm going, sir.
Okay. Now, you see, much that I know, there was the word Afenifere was Action Group's slogan that this party is Afenifere. In English, they say life more abundance. That was how Afenifere came by. So when market women are singing and people are singing for Action Group, they sing with that and say, Egbe Afenifere, a party that wants everybody to be successful, so to say. So that was where I know that
You
Afenifere
did not
emerged
address
from.
the question on the coup.
Come again with the question again.
Did Awolowo really plan a coup in the First Republic?
No. Yeah, okay. On the issue of coup, it was fabricated. You know what is so funny? My uncle, my maternal uncle, Justice Adeniyi, was was even involved in the thing. He was the one that was used because they promised to promote him into a high court judge because he was one of the lieutenants of Awolowo, very, very, very close to Awolowo. He works in Awolowo's chamber as a lawyer. So when the Show Memos and Co were promoted, he was not promoted. He was not appointed as a judge. Some rumor had it that he was the one who told Akintola that Awolowo was planning coup. And immediately he gave them that information, then he was promoted. He became a high court judge, Justice Adeniyi. He is my maternal uncle. So now when that incident happened, news went round that Adeniyi has implicated Awolowo in a coup. And you know, as somebody who was very close to Awolowo, it was very, very easy for the MPC, you know, to use that opportunity to remove Awolowo. So Awolowo didn't plan any coup. All of them who were involved, they all knew that he didn't plan any coup. If Awolowo were to plan any coup, would they have even succeeded? He didn't plan any coup. It was just fabricated. They did that in order to silence him because already the Western region was becoming too turbulent at that time because of his dispute with Akintola. And the dispute with Akintola, there are different kind of versions to it, but what was very, very, very clear and what was very known in Yoruba land then was that when immediately Akintola became the premier of Western region, he slashed down the price of cocoa for farmers. When Awolowo was premier, he increased cocoa's price every year. Buy it directly and pay the farmers outrightly. So in those good old days, cocoa farmers around September, October, you will see them buying new cars, buying new motorcycles, building their houses, buying new bicycles, you know, because it was their season. They make a hell lot of money from cocoa. When Awolowo left government for the federal and Akintola became the premier, Akintola slashed the price of cocoa. That was why it was the farmers who fought for Awolowo, the Agbekoyas. Many people just had that Agbekoya were fighting for Awolowo. No, that was their reason. So Awolowo was paying them, pay them more for their cocoa. Akintola slashed the price, and then then Awolowo took offense with him and said, "Why should you do this? This is what these people are living on." So that was the beginning of their crisis. But then Akintola knew he was losing because all the farmers were behind Atrium Group. You know, so he knew he was losing, and the best thing he could do to hold to government was to lean on the federal government of NNPC, NPC at that time. So that was what happened. Awolowo didn't plan any coup. That was a fabricated thing, just to nail him. Just to nail him.
Thank you very much, sir. And and I'm very
Yes.
excited. I'm very excited about the next chapter that we'll be talking about
No.
because
On the issue of this republic and the UPA, when they were starting the AD, I was not in Nigeria, but Immediately I saw the constitution, the composition of the AD, I knew there was going to be crisis. I suspected there would be crisis because I know Uncle Bola Ige very, 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 very well. Uncle Bola Ige is a die-hard Awoist. In fact, they were the one who started the Awos Vanguard from UI. Now, and he so much religiously believed in Awolowo and Awolowo's policy and system, such that when I saw the other people with whom they were forming the AD, and I saw the kind of prominence they were giving to newcomers in the AD who were not Action Group before and were not UPN before, I knew there was going to be trouble. Because even we that are small kids, when we joined the UPN, we saw clearly that you can hardly contest anything on the platform of UPN if your antecedent is not traceable to the Action Group. Are you with me?
Yes, sir, we are
Hello?
here.
Yes. Even in the UPN, before you are allowed to contest for primary election or anything, you must be known to have been part and parcel of the Action Group, maybe as a youth winger, maybe as whatever, but you must have the background of the Action Group. And the reason for that is because of this ideological thing we are talking about. And an Action Group, gentlemen, an Action Group man will think of how to provide water, electricity, road to his constituent before even thinking of buying a car for himself. That's an Action Group person. An Action Group person will think of how he can bring an industry to his constituency before he can even think of building a house for himself. That is an Action Group person. All those people that, even including Uncle Bola Ige himself, if you see his house in the Shauki, you won't believe this was somebody who had been a premier, who had been a governor, who had been a minister, who had been this. So the Action Groupers are very, 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 they are very, very sensitive to that kind of thing. So in the UPN, that's why you find all those who are contesting against each other in the UPN were purely Action Groupers. Maybe as youth wing person, but they are part and parcel of the old Action Group. Now, one would have expected the same thing in the MPN, the AD, bringing in people who were deeply involved in the UPN. And when you look at that list, it was only Bola Ige and Ganiu Daudu. Uncle Ayo Adebanjo was a parliamentarian. He was not as deep into it as Ganiu Daudu and Bola Ige. And he was even the only one among them. All other ones, Fasoroti and all other ones, yes, they were action groupers and the UPNers. But the way they were running, they were putting together the AD already clearly shows that there are no more UPNers, there are no more action groups, because they were now giving presidents to money. The action group that we know, everybody donates, even if it is 1 kobo. In the UPN, even we that were young among them, it all depends on your level. We raise money. No one single person in the UPN will come and say this is 10 million, this is 20 million. It's not done. Awolowo will tell you, thank you very much for your donation, but please use it for your constituency. This is everybody's party and everybody must be involved. So when I heard that in the AD, Omowa Tinubu, try. Àtọ́ sọ̀rọ̀ bá ṣe máa fọ́ọ̀mù offices káàkiri 500 million ló máa gbélẹ̀. I told Uncle Bola Ige immediately, I said, Uncle, you've sold that party. Then he said, Layo, in town bàbá ẹ fẹ́ nìyẹn. Because I told him, I said, sir, you've sold that party. How can one person, Awolowo, in his lifetime, he has Adeboale, he has Obagun, he has Oluwalogbon, he has many rich people. He never allowed them to come and donate such huge amount of money. Once you do that, you sold the party. And at the end of the day, that was exactly what happened. Ganiu Daudu in Lagos is an Awoist from the age of 16. He was the one who was supposed to, to put forward 2 or 3 or 4 candidates for the governorship of Lagos State, knowing who they are. But that didn't happen. This Adebanjo that is not screaming, they say, that was how they sold their AD to the highest bidder. So when I now listen to them crying, I just laugh because there's nothing Afenifere in this anymore. And the man, he who plays the pipe, the set dictates the tone. He put down his money and he dictates what he wants. And when they say no, he swept off everybody. Now they had no money. So he swept everybody away and he formed his own party. He called it AC, trashed them and started throwing money around. They allowed him to take over the port of Yoruba land. Lagos is a port of Yoruba land. If you know how much Awolowo put together to make Lagos State what it is, I remember I was in class 4 when they were forming, when they were working on a Lagos State creation. And when they created Lagos State, the Awori, the Egun, Ijebu, Eko, Ikorodu, they all met. I remember vividly the meeting was at Alhaji Beramoshi's place in Ikorodu. And those of us who are there, they were children at that time, secondary school boys who had just been Awoist conscious, that sort of thing. We were listening to them when Alhaji Beramoschi was challenging Awolowo that Obafemi, how do you want Lagos State to survive? Why should you sit down there and you allow Gowon to create Lagos State? Is it our fish we'll be living on? Is it our fish? And Awolowo said, Alhaji, I want to assure you people of Lagos State, that this Lagos State you are all afraid of is going to be the richest of all the states in Nigeria. And all of them were laughing. I said, but how are you going to do it? He said, Awolowo said, the money in Lagos State, you can only get it in Oyo. You can only get it in Oyo. And even in Oyo, you cannot get more, as much as you will get in Lagos. Then he revealed the thing. He said, do you know why all the industries in Western region, I was citing them in Apapa and Ikeja? This is the reason. All those industries are going to serve Lagos State. And the revenue from those industries is enough for the whole of Western region if we manage it very well. It was like a joke. And Awolowo was proved right when Jakonde became the governor of Lagos State. The money that only generated in the first 3 months was enough for him to do many things, and he was able to build schools, he was able to do many things, he was able to provide medical services and everything everywhere. So now, but if you look at what they turn Yoruba land into, those who call themselves AD, in the first instance, they make sure that Ike was no more with them. Because as far as they are concerned, that Ike's theory of why should they go back to the olden age of the donating money among themselves. Whereas in those days, gentlemen, every layers of the action group, or well, I may not be able to talk much about the action group, but every layers of the UPN from the zonal level up to the ward level had money, and this money is being donated by the people. And when they are choosing you to represent them, they are choosing one of them whom they know very well. And when he represents them, he must remember his root. So that was why under UPN there was no place that was not developed. No place. Rural electrification was very much rampant. Water supply was very much rampant. In fact, Awolowo insisted that before they finished the second term, all the universities must have started giving free education up to the university level for all Yoruba citizens in all the local states. That was what gave back to last Ogun State University, Oyo State University, Bendel State University in Ekpoma. But what happened to it? So you can see that it is those people who are now shouting up and down, talking about Afenifere, that destroy the Yoruba political structure. They were the one who created the Tinubu monster, the what do you call it, Adeyemi monster, the Okiki or Ekiti monster, the Osogbo. They are the one who created it. They turned Yoruba land into a political field where merchandise, political merchandise, takes up the place. In Yoruba land before, money does not matter in politics. It is your integrity, your education, your integrity, and your connection to the root. But today, what do they turn Yoruba? Before, Yoruba land never bothered what is happening at the federal level. Ladies and gentlemen, before, Yoruba land never, throughout the UPN era, 1969 to 1983, 1979 to 1983, no Yoruba governor ever went to Abuja to beg for money. None of them. And the free education was going, free health service was going, agriculture was going, everything was okay. In Lagos State, Jakonde started about 7 industries. None of those industries are there now anymore. So it's very, very unfortunate. It is very, very sad, particularly those of us who witnessed the UPN era. Now seeing what is happening now. Now, if you are not, if you are not a cocaine pusher who's made a lot of money, you cannot contest the election. If you are not a 419 who's been able to steal some money, you cannot contest an election. If you are not ready to go and stay at either Fayemi or Tinubu's house, you cannot contest an election. You see what they turn Yoruba land into. That's why we are so we feel so bad that this is not the Yoruba land that we know. In everything, Yoruba land competes gracefully with the likes of UK, US, and other advanced countries. Because our people are intelligent, our people are educated. But now, you will not believe it that your government now in Nigeria, in Western Nigeria, is now in the hands of half-bakes. Those who claim to be what they are not. Somebody who didn't go to school and he said he's an accountant, it's this, it's that. Can you see what Yoruba land has done to? So, and that's why you guys, this generation, you have a hell lot of work to do to rescue Yoruba land. we should, your generation should look at Banji Akintoye as the Theodore Hearst of your time. You should look at him as the Theodore Hearst of your time. The man who initiated the return of the Jews to their homeland, the creation of their homeland, Israel. We should all look at Akintoye with that kind of eye and give him every support that we think is necessary, because come to think of it, it is your generation that really needs to do a lot of work. We can only give you the kind of shaping, the kind of guidance, the kind of assistance and all that. It is your generation. Awolowo was how old when he was making sway? And Nauru that you just mentioned, one of you just mentioned, and Nauru was 23 when he moved the motion for independence in the House. You know, SG Nkoku was about 21. You know, so your generation really needs to do a lot of work, because you are educated, you are exposed, you are connected, you have the wherewithal. I continue to say it, that I am so proud of this generation, such that we can produce our own David Cameron. We can produce our own this young Canadian Prime Minister. We can produce our own Emmanuel Macron. We have them. We have them. But if we do not take the bull by the horns and make sure that we do all the needful to wrestle that country, that nation, Yoruba land, from the god of the Fulani, those of you outside may never dream of going back to Yoruba land again, because they would look at the way they are turning out the whole thing to be. So we got a lot to do, a lot to do. A lot of things have been spoiled, and if you continue to listen to all these old people who caused the crisis, all in the name of attacking for Yoruba, which Yoruba are they talking for? Which Yoruba are they talking for? Their children are getting appointment from Tinubu, getting appointment from Buhari, getting appointment from what is the name of the one in the party? So who's Yoruba are they talking about? Who? Yeah. In the afternoon, they will go into the newspaper, blow hot, hey, you like this, you like this. In the evening, they will receive call from Asoro. They will receive call from Bodilon. And people keep on suffering. And they keep on fooling the people. So it's a very, very, to really bring out the what do you call it? The benefit of the education that you Yorubas have, is just to make sure that that place is liberated, not necessarily by war. Yes, I mean, it is said that the pen is lighter than the sword. You can do it with your connection where you are. You can do it with your connection. All we just need to do is to be hard. By the time you push yourself to such a level that you are hard, I mean, the whole world will begin to look at us with sympathy as they're looking at Ukraine now. Whether Russia is right or wrong, that's not the issue. People have sympathy for Ukraine now. So we need the same thing. They won't listen to us if we don't create an avenue to make that kind of disturbing noise that will force them to say, okay, what do you want from us? Because these people, with what is happening even in Nigeria, can you imagine that none of them is even talking? All they are looking at is that 2023. By Cook or Cruz to say, hey, I have won, and then they become president again, and they will be making the plea. So it's a big task ahead. Is it just me?
We can hear the loss in network. It's very sad. I don't know if we have a Ojogbon in the house. I wanted him to, give us a brief perspective on the connection of spirituality, but I can no longer find him in the room. So the next chapter we were supposed to talk about, it talks about our economics, and anybody that knows me knows that this is something that I am extremely excited about, right?
D, I'm here.
Okay, Ojogbon, thank you very much for coming up. I'm going to yield the mic to you, and I wanted you to just connect the dots between our spirituality. I remember when I was reading his autobiography, right? He talked about how on Sundays he found, well, especially when he was is it Wesley College or when he went to the UK, he talked about how on Sundays, whilst the rest of the a large part of it was still Anglican and all and a Christian, but on Sundays they found it more easier to have a meeting where he just sat down with people of elite minds and they discussed about the confraternity, where they talked about the different things that were happening in the world order, and mostly international students like himself, and they were bringing ideas on economics and democratic socialism, the USSR, and it really shaped his worldviews on how government should connect with the people, as opposed to having the very Western American or British capitalist outlook on the world. It sort of diluted his view, and it happened consistently that this was like his Sunday ritual, as opposed to the typical just going for fellowship on Sundays. I don't know if you have any perspective on Awolowo's spirituality. And I know that this is a very sensitive subject, so I expect you to, in your wisdom, to do it with a lot of balance because oftentimes, the very famous words of that Spider-Man movie that came out almost 20 years ago, people fear what they do not understand. So thank you very much, Ojogma. You to you.
Okay, thank you very much, D. I want to acknowledge the work that you have done thus far, and then I want to thank our speaker tonight. I want to appreciate Bonka too for the historical perspective that everyone had actually put forth. For me, this is a very personal and passionate area of Awolowo's life that I want to talk about because my father was also a product of Wesley College. And going through that system of the core traditional institution that helped to shape the spirituality of the sage, and my father also inclusive, and I'm going to talk about that briefly too. I want to connect the linkage, the peculiarity of that line of spirituality. Awolowo's grandfather was Iwarefa in the Oshugbo fraternity, and by extension, he also was in Oshugbo. The Oshugbo is the Ogboni fraternity that is domiciled to a town. They are the powerful men in the town, the lawmakers in the town. So, if you are not from that town, you cannot be in the Oshugbo, but you can be in the regular Aboriginal fraternity. That if you are a member in Ikene, if you travel to Shagamu, you can worship in their conclave. If you go to Ife, you can worship in their conclave. But if you are in Oshugbo in Ikene, you're only allowed to be in the conclave in Ikene. You cannot come to my hometown in Shara and say you want to enter the Iledi Oshugbo in Shara. It's not possible because the secret of the town will be discussed in that place. So if you are not from that place, you cannot be part of it. Policy making was done there, and that was how it was in the ancient Yoruba land. In the Yoruba society, strategy, decision making, yeah, they make that in there. Now, Awolowo being a product of that system, I want to say with all sense of sincerity that the contraption we have as the reformed Ogboni fraternity was orchestrated deliberately by the influence of Freemason to dilute and to corrupt the aboriginal Ogboni that we had. And I will tell you why. In the Ogboni or Oshugbo house, a lady, the Orisha that they worship there, that we call Edon, does not support deceit, does not support
Yes.
lies, does not
Yes.
support injustice.
Exactly.
Anyone who belongs to that fraternity, by consequence, there is a restraint on everyone not to do anyhow, but to do that which will benefit the people. And that was where Awolowo belonged. The Oshubo and the Ogboni shaped whatever outcome you later see him exhibit. Even like Dee said, the interaction he had while he was in the UK were the exposure he had from home, and he shared that with them. Democratic socialism was what we have in the Ogboni. And briefly, when that Ogboni started, I don't want to bore you with the Isheshe thing, but you must know that it is the gathering of the powerful people. Aboriginally, it was Orumila that started it with all the deities, signing peace treaty with Ogun, with Shango, with Obatala, because none of them will want to agree with each other. He brought them to Mother Earth, which is Ile, to take an oath of allegiance that the son of Ogun will not hurt that of Oya, or Oshun will not do evil to Obatala. And that was how it started. So anyone in that house, they were all bound by that um, oath
Natural
of
law.
allegiance to one another as well as to the land upon which that oath was taken. Orile Lotimu, Lotiburai, Lotimu. Now, fast forward to the Awolowo era. Very many people do not know. This is where I will chip in the one that concerns my father. At a point between 1972 and 1974, my father was the um, community development supervisor for Ekpe division and Ikorodu division. I didn't get to know this. It was much later that I got to find out that my father was also in the Aboriginal Ogboni fraternity. And he later told me when I confronted him before he died that, Daddy, you showed me charts before all these places became what they are today. Igbo Olomo, Ishawo, and so on. Agbowa, Imota.
Mm.
Daddy, why
Mm-hmm.
you were doing all the charting for all these places? You did not take one plot for yourself. Why?
Yeah. Mhm.
He said, My son, you will not understand that I am not allowed to do such a thing. Whatever I
Exactly.
buy, whatever I use my money to buy, it is my own. Whatever I received as my
Exactly.
salary, I am contented by it. That is the order in the Ogboni fraternity. The restraint in that fraternity that binds men to be contented with whatever they have, to have allegiance to the to the community that they want to serve with all their life. And that is why the contraption we have as the reform of Boni fraternity usually insult those in the Oshugbo, pé wọn ò lówó, they are poor people. That wọn ò lówó. The reason why they don't have money, they are not after luxury. They are contented with whatever they earn from their gainful employment, from their labor. And that was who Chief Obafemi Awolowo was. So for many who do not know, when we sing in churches, Abraham blessings are mine, are we ready to do what Abraham did? Are we ready to follow the path Abraham followed? We talk about the sage, we talk about his achievement. Those achievements Are we ready? We can replicate it. But the question is, are we ready to follow that path that Chief Obafemi Awolowo followed? Very many people have gone to the UK and studied. We have so many graduates and professors. But one thing that differentiates him that many have not done, you have not actually done what Awolowo has done. If Chief Obafemi Awolowo had mandated it, or maybe by involvement, if Akitola had also been conscripted into the Aboriginal Ogoni, perhaps the outcome would have been different. If the people like Adelabu Adegoke had been conscripted into the Aboriginal instead of the charade we have in the ROF that every one of them run to, because the binding force that held these noble men to serve their people with their might, with their strength, with their heart, we cannot find it elsewhere. We cannot. And the number of lodge belonging to ROF around the world that every of the Yoruba leaders today ran to, it is because kò sí ohun tó ń bí wọn níbẹ̀. No reprimand, no consequence. And that is why you have proliferation of bad leaders everywhere. Because there is nothing that acts as check and balances. Ẹni tápá èèyàn ò ká, apá arúnmọlẹ̀ ká. Nobody is bigger than the gods. No one. But what we have now, it is lie upon lie that has been presented to many as being a reformed Ogboni fraternity. Awolowo spirituality built within the Oshugbo and the Aboriginal Ogboni fraternity with later exposure to the Rosicrucian order. I make bold to say that for anyone, including myself, aspiring to meet up with that standard, what he was able to achieve. I have gone to the university, I am a graduate. Yes, I am educated, pass. I am a gentle person, pass. I am contented with what I have, pass. I am not greedy, pass. But there is one thing I am yet to pass. In as much as I claim that I am not greedy, perhaps maybe I have not been exposed to that kind of environment where I will see huge sum of money, free money, where my character will actually be tested. But before then, let me put some restraint to myself, checks and balance, that whenever I remember the oath that I have taken, that will stand as a constant reminder for me that wherever I am going to be, at any place, at all times, I will do that which will be beneficial to the people that I am representing and to the community that I come from. If we do not emphasize this to the hearing of this new generation, who might believe that, oh, Awolowo studied law, I will also study law. He studied commerce, I will also study commerce. And we think it is only by sheer character. No, it is not just by sheer character. Character and attitude, we form them over time. And if we do not put certain things in place to help us form this right attitude, we, like they say, everybody has a price. For you not to have that price, there is another level of support that you need to seek for. And that support is where I come in, while the likes of Bonka will tell us the historical perspective on economic activities, on leadership qualities of Obafemi Awolowo, the Yoruba economy as it were then. I will remind us that is my own mission in this whole quest for Yoruba nation. For whosoever that will join in administering the affair of this new nation, there must be this kind of allegiance that we need to have to the people and to the land that we want to serve. If we do not put that in place, if we still want to continue to do it, see, they say that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. We've been doing it like this for many years. We've not had result. Now I'm bringing it out that for those who do not know, this was who Chief Obafemi Awolowo was. If you want to replicate what he did, you need to include this as part of the things we also have to do. So I am going to be the voice of leading the new generation, young people like myself, whichever town you are from. I'm not going to ask you to come and do Oshugbo in Ishara. You are not from Ishara. But go
Uh,
back to your town,
Ojogbon,
identify with the Oshugbo in that town, and then you are on the path of aligning with Chief Obafemi Awolowo's spirituality. Thank you.
thank you for that very powerful submission. I think one of the most important learning points I could also connect from what you had just lectured us on was that it's very important for the new nations to have some sort of ways that we can connect our leadership back to a large degree of loyalty to the soil, to the origin, to the history of the Yoruba peoples, and to our spirituality. And I really want to thank you for that very difficult subject as well, because, like I've always said, when it comes to the indigenous peoples' spirituality and African spirituality, because of over 100 years of Western indoctrination and Western religions, and it's also a very sensitive subject. So it's one that must be approached with the master stroke of a painter. Where you peel the layers one paintbrush at it or paint stroke at a time. So it's really very insightful to understand that Awolowo had other um, motivations to be a really good premier for the Yoruba people. I mean, some of his works till today we still study it and trying to connect the dots between outright, even as economists, outright capitalism as a way of governance, and the merits and demerits of capitalism, and also the challenges of socialism. So having democratic socialism and having seen it work for almost a decade transcends a lot of Western economic theories in terms of how somebody is able to achieve that. So, the sage has been somebody that, honestly, I believe was just sent to the Yoruba peoples for that specific purpose to show us that there can truly be greatness for the black peoples, especially for the Yoruba peoples. We can truly achieve our place in world order, that respect and dignity that the black man is missing. And if the Yoruba people do get it right, we could become the blueprint. Because honestly, the derogatory word would be the brown people, but the way the Emiratis and the Saudi Arabias and the UAEs have turned around the destinies of their people, the Arabs, and have given them respect in the world order is simply because of their ability to transform their very with intentional economic policies, transform the destiny of their people from a poor country to a rich country. And one of the things that demystifies one of the shouts against racism and the continued subjugation of the black peoples in Western countries, and even especially in the US and the UK, and the way people are very freely, openly racist against black peoples is because to a very large degree we're poor people. And Awolowo made sure that during his time, the Yoruba peoples were truly a prosperous country, and it was by intentional policies. So, without further ado, our economics chapter 7 talks about how Awolowo had so many intentional economic policies that were centered at stimulating the economy, appropriate use of resources beyond the personalities that he surrounded himself with, which were really competent people and people who were passionate about. And the way I would put it is that Yorubas in diaspora were passionate about creating an economic system for the Yoruba peoples to be successful. You know, they were people that very similar to what you would call, say, the Additionals of this world, which are established technocrats in foreign spaces, who then came back to Yoruba land to implement economic policies that have since been developed over decades with Egbe Omodudua, and was almost situated into the Yoruba country with and implemented to a crystal finesse, because it was able to achieve so much economic growth. And I mean, some of the things we talk about here today in terms of Awolowo's ability to stimulate demand by stabilizing cocoa prices, and by also incentivizing his ministers and trade emissaries to find best deals, so that cocoa farmers could constantly have a supply for their demand. And that also trickled down back into productivity, is what the economics call reverse supply chain now, backward integration. So it's a lot of real sheer ingenuity that we see in Awolowo's works, and I think that our economics perfectly explains it. So, sir, in very few words, as you wish, could you just talk to us about, um, the dynamic and enlightened leadership that Awolowo brought to bring the wealth of the nation, and the fountain of the strength that he used to develop it for the Yoruba peoples? Thank you very much.
Yeah, before I continue, let me quickly support the last speaker on the need for spiritualism. Let me quickly also remind you that, as it is said in English dictum, there is nothing impossible for a willing mind. What he suggested happened sometimes when Bolahan Mudashiru was to be sworn in as the governor of Lagos State. I remember then, that was in 83 after the coup. They brought, his name is Mudashiru. They brought Quran, he said no. They brought the Bible, he said no. Then they said, Your Excellency, this is what you said. No, I don't believe in all this. Give me a cutlass, and I will swear in the name of, by the God of Ogun. Everybody in the auditorium busted into laughter, but that was exactly what Bola Mudashiru did. And when he was swearing in his commissioners, he did exactly the same thing to them. If you are a Muslim, he doesn't care. If you are a Christian, he doesn't care. He will tell you, no, I swear in the name of the God of Ogun, you will have to do the same thing. So, and all his commissioners were made to swear by the God of Iron. Your generation can also evoke that kind of thing into the system. It's not impossible. It's not something difficult. One. Then another thing again is, even we, the small ones that were following Awolowo at that time, honestly speaking, we are not aware of this. Though we knew that he belonged to Ogboni fraternity, this and this, that. But we never, that's just the truth. We never knew that was what is responsible for his attitude, his discipline, and all that. But it was a very, very good insight you gave, and that's a brilliant one. But then, you see, as the leader, we copy him. And Jakonde in Lagos State, we also saw that he was doing exactly what Awolowo did in transparency. So all his commissioners, Alhaji Gani Oshineye, Alhaji Gani Daudu, all of them were doing exactly the same thing. Whether they belong to this, Ogboni or that, we didn't know. But we just find it a pleasure that we want to emulate them. We want to have the same kind of, kind of respect they have in the society. That Jakonde is not using official car; he was using his Toyota Crown. Alhaji Gani Daudu was not using official car; he was using his Peugeot 504 and all that kind of thing. So I think that was a very, 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 very good thing for us to emulate. But I believe that, like I insist, there must be a new social order which must, be developed by your generation if Yoruba land will move forward. It is very, 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 very important. Now, having said that, Awonomics, as I call it, is very simple. Very, very, very simple to understand because it evolves around the grassroots. Around the grassroots. It's not something that is so complex that we cannot see. Everybody could see it working. So that's why we begin to wonder now, with these ones now who says they're in government and they will say they will vote billions for this, billions for that, and you will not see anything. I will not believe that whatever we have from whatever level should be able to sustain our economic development. Let's take a simple community like Ekpe, for instance. There was this fishing cooperative. Now, the fishing cooperative is sponsored by government with warehouse, with smoking house, with everything, such that whatever fish is caught there is more than enough to be sold for the community and at the same time take out of the community. At the larger Yoruba society, farmers were made to be proud of whatever they had, such that there is no part of Yoruba land that does not produce cocoa. Why? Because it's like what do you call it? Money spinning produce. The same thing is palm tree, where you have virtually every part of palm tree was useful. The same thing is rubber. See? The same thing is even cocoa yam, and things like that. I remember in those days, people in Ibadan and Lagos will be waiting for Ekiti yam, Ondo yam, okay, what do you call it? Egbe yam, Ibarapa yam. I know those sort of things. They were coming. They were coming. And it was because the government of the day encouraged them, by ensuring that there is no waste, and there's no shortage in the society. He even encouraged the local businessmen as well. Do you know that blacksmiths will come to Ibadan with bundles of hoes and cutlasses, or even in Ijebu, the major towns. So, and when they started this fabrication of what do you call it, agricultural tools at Eleyele, Ibadan, many of the local welders were employed, and they were producing a whole lot of these plovers, weeders, and all that. So to him, it wasn't a magic. It was what he found pleasure in because he surrounded himself with people who have ideas, people who know what the people are suffering in the grassroots. So he also ensured that at least even the trading activities, those in the cities are not lagging behind. They are not relying on such that, if I can remind you, the Lebanese and the Indians who are in Ereko, Bagi in Ibadan, and such other places, our mothers were the one displacing them because of the facilities they get from Agbomagbe Bank, from Wema Bank, from National Bank, and so on and so forth. So it was a nation of economic boom. It was a nation of economic boom. The Nigerian farmers were allowed to grow. You see, the same thing were even the what they call the local manufacturers. And this is today, it is even much more easier for this generation to advance further beyond what Awolowo was able to achieve, because now technology has taken over the place. You now have what could the kinds of technology that we can apply to get even more. Many countries like Ivory Coast, they still live on cocoa till now because they don't have oil. And that cocoa was the mainstay of Western region economy before. But now, what you will probably call decent para from Abuja has made all the governors realize all they are waiting for is the allocation from the federal to share among themselves. So the system that evolved is a system that can easily be maintained, because unlike his own time, he had very few technocrats to implement most of these things. But today, we can build as many technocrats as possible among our people, both at home and the diaspora. So in a nutshell, even in education, the level at which Yoruba land has stepped further in education now is not the same as what it used to be. Though unfortunately, this regime had bastardized the whole thing. Now university here, university there, and the ones that are there, people cannot even afford. So we should be able to look at the global community in terms of economic development and see how we can now streamline our own in order to make sure it aligns with what obtains globally now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. At this junction, I would like us to allow some of our members on stage to contribute to the conversation. If you'd like to speak, please pump your mics. All right. In the absence of any other speaker, we'll continue from the book. By way of refreshing the room, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us from today. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Yoruba Nation. If you're not following the clubhouse, please follow by clicking the greenhouse icon, and also follow any of the speakers or moderators that resonates with you. We have regular programming where we discuss. This is a gathering, by the way, of Yoruba nationalists. People who believe that Yoruba Nation will be great again, and Yoruba land would rise from the dust. That is the contraption called Nigeria. Everybody here is exceptionally very well vested in our history, our economic potential, our interest, and everything Yoruba. So thank you for coming to this gathering. Please feel free to join in the conversation, to send a message, or to schedule rooms, or to request for rooms. Just reach out to any of the mods or any of the members of the club, and surely whatever topic on Yoruba nationalism that you wish to speak to will be scheduled for you. Today, we are honored to have a doctor with us, somebody who truly revere his wealth of experience and wisdom. And luckily for us today, it's like it connects us of two great juggernauts when we are talking about Awoism. And talking about Dr. Layo Adeniyi's yet to be released book. So just keep it on queue. Watch out. The book is titled Awoism, Exemplary, Integrity and Welfarism. And we've been doing some deep dives into some of the economic and industrial revolutions that Awolowo brought to the Yoruba peoples. We've currently gone through the first 7 chapters of the book, and we're currently just about 4 chapters 5 chapters left. So next on the queue, we'll be talking about the people's welfare, and we're going to tie that into Awolowo's vision as well, because truly, if anybody has heard about how Awolowo's name has continued to stay with the Yoruba peoples, it's basically about his ability to cater for those who have, but also those who do not have. I remember one of my favorite stories, historical sessions with one of our historians on stage, Mr. Bonkai, when he discussed about how when Awolowo was going to introduce free education, and the abs or the elites tried to destroy some of his plans and his calculation by telling the farmers that by the time they send their kids to school, they will no longer have the helps that will help you on the farm, which is the children that acted as farmers' assistants and all that on the farmland. And because of this, they tried to sabotage the free education plan, because a lot of the elites realized that education was one of the Yoruba people say. Um, Who's going to help me with that proverb? Please, we have so many people on stage who actually know that proverb better than me. Balogun, this is where you come in and shine for us. We loving more share, we could chorus share. So the Yoruba peoples then, unfortunately, education was considered something that only the elite could have, and they had tried to go around the farmers to discourage the farmers from sending the children to the free education program. And unfortunately, when the free education program kicked off, the very first day it was oversubscribed by almost 300,000 additional children who had turned up far ahead of what Awolowo had projected or estimated, and they had to further expand the program and hire more teachers and begin to do rapid teacher teacher teaching programs, so that they could get more teachers into the scheme, just to cater for the overwhelming support that the Yoruba people has. This ties into Awolowo's principle, his vision as a welfare person, and also talking about how the Americans, almost 60 years after Awolowo designed Medicaid or Obamacare for the Yoruba peoples, the Americans are still struggling to wrap their head around basic medical access to medicine for the Americans, and that's basically formed the crux of the Obama administration, and even early parts of the Trump administration repealing Obamacare, and they had struggled even with the best of their computers and the best of their Harvard PhDs and economists. They struggled to come up with an economic policy to manage medicine for the American people. But here was Awolowo doing people welfare, and he prioritized healthcare for the elderly and for the young. So, sir, could you just walk us through people welfare and also Awolowo's vision for the Yoruba peoples before we go into chapter 10 of the book, and then we'll begin to bring the program to a close? Please, thank you very much. So, sir.
Thank you. His vision was, what was paramount in his vision was the welfare of the people. For instance, on the health sector, the school sector, we all knew what happened. He opened the primary school from 1955, became free, and then set he set up some other level of education to support the free primary education, so that when they finish the primary school, they can easily continue. That was what they did. Now, on the health sector, every division of Yoruba land had primary care system. In addition to that was dispensaries. If you take a division, for instance, let's say we say a pet division, the districts under a pet division have their own public primary health centers where children are treated free, where there are also maternity centers where women are treated free. At all these levels, you have nurses and midwives and what we call dispensary officials. That is at the divisional level. So which means from the district to the division. Like for instance, like as I said, in the case of Ekpe, you have Eredo district, Agbowa district, Ejiri district, you know, and the main central district of Ekpe itself. In other words, if your child is sick in Eredo district, you don't need to go to Ekpe before you get treatment. You just go to the nearby clinic there, where a nurse is waiting, a dispensary person is waiting, and a midwife is also there in case it's a childbirth issue. After that level, it comes to the divisional level, where you come to the general hospital in Ekpe. Every divisional headquarters had general hospitals. Every divisional headquarters, be it Jebode, Ekpe, Jagamu, Ikorodu, Ibadan, Oshogbo, everywhere. There are general hospitals all over the place. And the treatment was also free. Now, I cannot even remember ever going to a chemist to buy medicine in those days, because when you go to the hospital, you queue to see the doctor. After seeing the doctor, they give you your prescription. You go to the pharmacy department, they give it to you. So nobody knows. For, for all I know, in the whole of our area in Lagos Island at that time, I cannot remember how many medicine stores we had. Before you get a medicine store from Reka, you go to Bangboshe, which is a walking distance of about 10 or 15 minutes. Whereas if you go to Sangros, I mean, if you go to Itafaji for treatment, you get your medicine there. If it is from the Sangros area, you get your medicine there. If it's from Olowo Bowo area, you get your medicine there. So if you see anybody going into medicine store, perhaps the grown-ups who are doing self-medication, maybe they knew what they could use, and then they go to the medicine store to buy it. So Awolowo did all that such that you hardly find anybody, who will die at home without going to the hospital, or because he couldn't pay bill. No, that doesn't happen. That was on the health sector. Now, even taking care of the old people too, at that time, though there were no allowances for the age, but then the medical services given to them was enough, and such that even those who are pensioners, they take their pension before every 25th of the month, between 20 and 25th of the month, they take their money. So we now begin to wonder that what has really gone wrong. Every street in Lagos, much that I can remember, every street in Lagos have at least minimum of 5 water drawing points, where you queue to fetch water, you take it into your compound, and many compounds that could afford it even bring water into their compounds. Street light was everywhere, such that in the evening, it's like everywhere is market. See, the whole society was organized, peaceful, prosperous, and progressive. And this was not even enough for Awolowo, because he was saying that in addition to all this, when you reach the age of 60, government should be able to take care of take care of you with some allowances which you can live. Unfortunately, he couldn't do that before the whole thing turned upside down. But the UPA was about to start that, before the coup, by is it Buhari and Babangida and all that. So Awolowo's vision was to ensure that no Yoruba man lives a life that is substandard. I could remember our fathers in those days, most of them after finishing their course in UK, they returned home immediately because job was waiting for them. You know, and immediately they finished, whether it's 6 months course, 1 year course, particularly those who study medicine, engineering, and all that, they will go to the Oduduwa house, show the copy of their results, and their passage through Elder Dempster will be arranged. If they bought a car they want to take home, Elder Dempster will take it for them. If they've not bought any car, it's just their notes, they get their ticket, their baggage ticket and everything. And that was the Yoruba land we grew to know. That's the Yoruba land we grew to know. And that's the Yoruba land we were all thinking we will grow up into. But unfortunately, the reverse is the case. The reverse is the case. Awolowo's principle of better life for everybody is what Yoruba land is missing today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And honestly, Aulo's vision for the Yoruba peoples, and the kind of vision that we have by the leadership of the country today, it continues to be at a complete loggerhead in terms of opposites, in terms of leadership that had vision and mission and a very clear objective path to achieving that vision for the Yoruba peoples, and the current leadership that has you know very little regard. So um let's look a deep dive now, and we'll be taking a look at the horizontal axis of the social enterprise compass that you talked about in chapter 10 of your book, Awoism. And we'll be tying that.
Can I ask a question or something like that?
Okay, all right. Please go ahead. Thank you, Mr.
Go
Ben.
ahead.
Yeah, so thanks so much. It's really a great opportunity to learn always, from this platform. I really appreciate what you guys are doing, everybody that is behind the scene working to make sure that we have this type of speakers, because from what I'm hearing, he, let's say, is more or less like a protege to, Baba Awolowo. And it's really refreshing to have that, when they talk about to hear something from the vine, right? Or from the horse's mouth, like they say, alternatively. So it's really great to have that opportunity, sir. So I think I just wanted to add something with regard to the legacy of Baba Wolo, because a lot of people who are especially of today's age, I mean, the youths, sometimes they don't understand these very critical things regarding the growth and the development of Nigeria. That it's on the shoulder of this person we're talking about today. I mean, you have this buzz or this news that, oh, United States Nigerians are the most educated, blah blah blah. This man actually laid that foundation for a lot of people who don't know that. I've heard of people who um I've heard of people who just a second here. Just wanna make sure. Hold on a second. Yeah. I've heard of people whom the legacy of education that they have in their family was because there was that program. Especially people
Yes.
who were originally under the is it Midwest they call it? People from
Yes.
Delta and all these other places now that are being called, Niger Delta. A lot of them
Yes.
benefited from this program. But we hear from some of them today, and if you hear the kind of rhetoric we hear from some of these folks, whom their great great grandfather wouldn't have even had anything close to a formal education if it wasn't for
Yeah, you're right.
this sage, that made that happen. So my question thus is, we hear a lot of rhetoric here about Babawolo being, sorry, Babawolo being,
a one Nigeria person. I'm sure some of you would have heard them say that. But being somebody who actually know him, I wanted the opportunity to speak to that today. If it's indeed was somebody who was for his people or just focused on one Nigeria.
Hmm. Awolowo's philosophy was, I put it the way he says it. I am an Ijebu man before I am a Nigerian. You know, he went further to say, I'm an Ijebu man, a Yoruba man before I'm a Nigerian. And that was exactly who he was. But the thing is, again, Awolowo had an ambition of a greater Nigeria where where the country called Nigeria will be on shoulder to shoulder with any of the Western countries. He had that confidence in himself and in his team. And he also believed that with the kind of thing he's been able to do successfully in Western region, he believed it was possible to do exactly the same thing throughout Nigeria. Awolowo does not believe that Yoruba, Yoruba and Hausa and Igbo and Efika, he didn't believe they were one, but he believed that they all belong to the country called Nigeria. And that what the Westerners, what the Yorubas were benefiting, they should also benefit the same thing. Vis-a-vis good education, job opportunity, booming agricultural, advancement and all that. So when they say is a national, I will believe in one Nigeria. In that context, yes, they are right. But in the real context of Awolowo's person, charity, he said, begins at home. Hence, everything he was doing at that time, he was spreading the development around Yoruba land based on the resources available at that time in Yoruba land. And when you mention Delta State, yes, I want to mention here that Delta State at that time, they were not the they called them, Ijorobu and that kind of thing. Now, they were hardworking people too who were contributing from palm oil business. Most of the farms in Yoruba land, those who are doing the tapping of the palm oil, the processing of the palm oil, they are either Urobo, Shekiri, Ijo, from present day Delta State. So rubber also from Edo side. This was one of the reasons why he extended the development to all those areas, because they were also contributing to the, to the economy of the region. But really, Awolowo will not insist that an Hausa man must be like a Yoruba man, or an Igbo man must be like a Yoruba man, or like an Hausa man. No, but his belief is that everybody in Nigeria must have access to free education up to any level, free healthcare, very good welfare program for everybody. That was his thinking. He's not when they say he wanted one Nigeria. He wanted one Nigeria because he was the mastermind of the Federation Constitution that says, every region should be on their own and then develop at their own pace. But at the central, they should come together to move the country forward. So, yes, Awolowo is a typical Yoruba man who believed in the advancement and welfare of his people. And by extension, he believed that, well, since it's part of since Yoruba land is part of the country, what he is able to do for his own people, the other people too should benefit. That was Awolowo.
Sir, I actually thank you for that answer. I actually wanted to ask, are you there, sir?
With you, very much.
Okay, I actually wanted to ask because there's a lot of backlash about that, especially when it comes to the Yoruba Nation evangelist. You know, because people will say, yeah, we that say, oh, we want Yoruba Nation and we hold the sage to high esteem. Like even the sage wasn't for Yoruba Nation, you know. And there was this popular interview they usually shared, you know, they usually push around where Baba himself said he doesn't see any reason for Yoruba to leave Nigeria. That you know it's good for Yoruba to be part of Nigeria. So they usually share that interview, and they will come to us and say, okay, isn't this the man you all are saying is this you know the foundation and all that for Yoruba Nation? But even this man doesn't support Yoruba Nation during his time, you know. And you know, and the backlash sometimes even comes from some of our brothers from the east during Biafra war. You know that during Biafra war, it was a Baba's policy of hunger that actually quench the war. You know, so even because of that, I don't think some of them will even forgive Baba because of that policy, you know. So like the person that asked the question asked, like I wanted to ask the same question, but you answer. But I mean, I still want to know if truly the sage actually wanted a Yoruba nation. Because I also heard that what Baba was doing in the Western region, he was doing it because he was high in the federal. He wanted to go to the federal, so he wanted to do something in the Western region to entice, to show what he would do at the federal level. So he was doing that because of the federal, because he wanted to go federal, you know. So I don't know if you can shed more light on that, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let's start this way. If somebody says, first, I'm an Ijebu man, a Yoruba man before I am a Nigerian, that tells you how much he is close to his people. That's number one. Number two, those who were using that rhetoric to say Awolowo did not support this, Awolowo did not support that, we should remind them that in 1967, when Ojukwu made his declaration for Biafra, Awolowo said it and it was repeatedly quoted that if Biafra is allowed to go, Yoruba land will follow suit immediately. They should be reminded that. Awolowo said that. That's one point. Another point again is the situation we are today, the situation the Yoruba land is today. If Awolowo were still to be alive, he will lead the Yorubas out of Nigeria. He will not keep quiet and watch people coming into Yoruba land to slaughter his people. And he will keep quiet and say he wants to be president. Awolowo will never do such a thing. You will not kill, you will not, Hausa man will not kill some people in Sabo market in the Ilefe. Kill Yorubas in the Ilefe. And because he wants to be president, he will keep quiet and let them kill everybody. Awolowo will not sit and watch Yoruba man be slaughtered in Okeogun and keep quiet. That's not Awolowo. That's not Awolowo that we all knew. And when Awolowo said, if Biafra should be allowed to go, Yoruba land will follow suit. That tells you that as far as he is concerned, his people are very, 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 very dear to his heart. When the Igbo said he stabbed them, you are at war. So should Awolowo allow the resources of Nigeria or Yoruba land to continue to be used to continue to feed those people who are even coming to invade Lagos? Is that what they're saying? Was it Yoruba land fighting them when they came to Benin? From Benin, they came to Ore. From Ore, they were even coming to Lagos. When they bombed Lagos, when they sent bomb to Casino Cinema in Yaba, was that part of the arrangement for them? Is the Yoruba land part of the north they were fighting with? And are they not aware, or didn't they hear it? Immediately that happened. Immediately that happened, and they bombed Lagos. Awolowo called on Yoruba army officer and said, "You cannot sit and watch your territory being taken over by anybody." That was Awolowo that we grew to know. What Banji Akintoye is doing today is just a replica of what Awolowo will do if he were to be alive. Awolowo does not joke with Yorubas, whether you vote for him, you don't vote for him, whether you support him, you don't support him. Awolowo does not joke with it that you mess up with Nigeria, with Yorubas for any reason. He will call on his people immediately and say, you should defend yourself. What is going on now is only an unintelligent, unreasonable person who will say Yoruba should remain where they are. Every day you open the newspaper, you see Yorubas are being killed. Yoruba territory is being invaded. Yoruba people are being kidnapped. And you are saying we should remain in that kind of arrangement just because you happen to be governor, just because you happen to be an honorable member, taking some millions home every month, just because you are enjoying and people are suffering. The Awolowo that we grew up to know will never, he will do, probably he will even do worse than what Banji is doing. Probably. Awolowo will touch the whole of Yoruba land and speak to all of them and tell them this should not continue. So that is the Awolowo that we need to know. Not these politicians today who are only concerned about the money they are making, who are only concerned about the benefit they are going to get, who doesn't even care about the masses. Not the Awolowo that we need to know. So if anybody is saying that Awolowo was not even supporting the Yoruba nation, the question to such a fool is, during Awolowo's time, were Fulanis coming to rape our people, to kidnap our people? Nobody dare do it. The Awolowo, even Amadu Bello himself will not try it because he knows that Yoruba land will not tolerate it, and Awolowo will not tolerate it either. But now, we are like prostitutes. Everybody come to fuck up. The issue will come and say, Lagos is no man's land. The North will come and say, they are Emma in Ibadan. They are, what do you call it, Seriki in the all of that kind of nonsense. So if they are saying that, it is because they don't know how much Awolowo loved his people. They don't know it. And sometimes when they say the Yorubas are not united, tell them when they say such a thing that if UK united, the Labour is hunting what is his name? Their prime minister now because they had a party. Is that unity? The conservatives are chasing Sleepy Joe in America now. Is that unity? We know that all of us cannot be the same thing. We know that there must be some fools among us. No problem about that. But those who are not foolish, let them join the bandwagon, and then until such a time that they tell us to go to polls to decide, do we want to go or we don't want to go? But if anybody is hiding under Awolowo's statement, that's not correct. Yes, it is true that during the war, Awolowo ensured that Nigeria won the war because the Yoruba land was threatened. If Ojukwu had not come to Ore and tried to come to Lagos, I tell you, the story would have been different. If they had concentrated on Nsukka and from there to Benue and across to it would be their own business. But coming to Ore, going as far as to Ondo, going into Okitipupa, marching towards Lagos, and they expect Awolowo to fold his hand. It's not possible. Awolowo is not one of those fools who are parading themselves now as political leaders while their people are suffering. So that's the truth, my dear.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I don't know if anyone else have got questions or comments or contributions. But just before we go to other people who might have contributions, my question is this. So you have established, sir, that given our realities in Nigeria today, Baba Awolowo wouldn't have allowed for all of this nonsense going on to
Exactly.
happen without really
Exactly.
speaking up for his people.
Yes.
But
Yes.
beyond the welfareism of the besides the welfareism policy,
Yes.
besides the welfareism policy and its ideology
Yes.
that we all know and that we all are learning about today, uh,
Yes.
can you please tell us if at any point Baba Awolowo thought or contemplated on the need for our region, for Yoruba land, to have independent police or military? Was that ever part of his dreams and vision for the Yoruba people?
Police, yes. Military, no. Military, what he requested was that military officers of each region should be posted to their region, because of what do you call it, understanding their terrain. So that, yes, he supported, but not a separate military uh, organization. Awolowo believed that military, currency, and customs should be and customs should be federal issue. That's about that. Then on the police, there used to be regional police before, because I remember in Ibadan you had the what they used to call the local police authority. They also have what they call Akoda. Those Akodas are the ones that are attached to the traditional rulers. Yes, they had one. But in 1957, before the Nigerian independence, precisely 1956, Awolowo requested for independence for Yoruba region, for Western region, and the British accepted and gave independence to Western region, which encouraged the East, as if we were requesting for the same thing, and the East also got their own independence in 1959. These were the things that probably encouraged Ahmadu Bello also to now agree that, okay, they could have a independent Nigeria. And what I remember during the 1963 crisis before the coup, what I remember our people, our elders, like I said again, we were still secondary school boys then. What I remember our people saying was that since Western region got independence in 1957, Awolowo should have allowed that independence to remain and stop canvassing for independence for the whole of Nigeria. But I think Awolowo was thinking in line with Secretary, what is his name? Secretary of Guinea and Nkrumah of Ghana, who are all thinking along the line of a strong African body. Perhaps that could have influenced his thought. But really, Yoruba land got independence even before Nigeria got it. But taking that independence further, I think, was what we of this generation will say was a big error on the side of Awolowo. We should have allowed it to continue, which wouldn't have been necessary for us to have Nigeria and begin to suffer under the Fulanis. I think he believed that he had worked so hard on Nigeria because for him the Western region case was already settled. The region was going fine, was moving very much faster than any other, even faster than most of the other African countries. So he now saw, he now foresee a situation where if the kind of development going on in Western Nigeria can be extended to, to the entire country of 55 million at that time, that it will make a very big have a very big influence on Africa. He failed to realize that the British had seen a big threat in him the way he was administering Western region. They have foreseen that if he should be allowed to rule the whole of Nigeria, they would lose control completely. Because, for instance, the cocoa from Western Nigeria, Awolowo was working with Ghana and Ivory Coast in fixing the cocoa price and compelling all the British companies in Nigeria to come and establish in Nigeria instead of buying cocoa, taking it away and bringing it at Bombita and Ovaltine, selling it at 5 shillings, while the whole bag of cocoa is taken away at £1, 10 shillings. So they saw that the way Awolowo was going, it was not going to be possible for UK to sit on Nigeria if he is allowed to rule the whole country. But unfortunately for him, instead of him to concentrate on his Western region, you know, I think that ambition was his undoing for us, because all those who witnessed what development was in Nigeria between 1954 and even up to 1966 are not happy with what is going on today. So that is it.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
So if you are on the stage or you're in the room, you have comments, you have questions or contributions, please feel free to come up to the stage. And if you're on the stage, please kindly flash your mic so you can have the floor. Ojogbon, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you. I really appreciate all that you've said thus far. I also want to bring another perspective to our line of discussion, and
Good,
I'm going to tie it back to our spirituality that I spoke about earlier.
good, good.
The British
Yes.
knew that the formidable resistance they met with us in Yoruba land was built around that social system
That's right.
that was enshrined in the Ogboni fraternity, as it were.
Okay.
The allegiance of the king, the Ogboni, to the people was tightly knitted that it was quite impenetrable for them to
Mm.
turn the back of the leaders against the people. Tunde Kilani, in his classical movie Shaworoide, role
Yes.
played what really happened to us.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah,
Oni
yeah,
Jogbo to be wealthy, he must not wear Adeide.
yeah.
The same thing, for anybody in the Yoruba land to become wealthy, they must not be part of the Aboriginal Ogboni fraternity. And so also, wọ́n ní ọmọ iná là ń rán síná.
Mm.
The job Reverend Theophilus Ogunbiyi did by
Yeah, that's
establishing
right.
Ogboni Onigbagbo, which was later renamed as Reformed Ogboni Fraternity, was orchestrated
Fraternity.
and sponsored by the British to
Mm.
divert the attention of many of us,
Okay.
gullible as it we were,
Mm.
painted the traditional institution as being fetish,
Mm.
hiding under the caprices of religion, Christianity, to
Mm.
sway a lot of people away from that system. They succeeded
Yeah,
in 1814
they did.
in establishing that. Now, we have gone all along on that path that the charade that we experience now, it is absolutely well orchestrated, well planned, and
Mm.
that's the way the things have turned out. Because if that had not been the case, the current situation in Nigeria will not have happened in the first place. Akitola betrayed us
Mm.
when he was appointed a federal minister to represent us. He was representing himself. That got Baba angry that he had to, leave the post of the premier to
Mm.
go
For
and
the federal.
for the federal. And it was when he was at the federal, he gave them what, yes, a leader, reminding them all this lie they are giving us today that it is
Mm.
the north that was feeding Nigeria. The agri produce and export from the southwest swallowed the entire region, both eastern and northern region together. The revenue that
They are telling themselves that story, not Nigeria. Nigeria knew.
so for us, I it pains me that wow, we have actually dwindled and in this level of bad trend for so long. But then
Yeah.
we will not retreat. We will not retreat. We will not back down. We will continue to talk about it and we will continue to invite as many that Ileto law, we need to go back home. And
Yes.
home is not geographical location. Home is about ideology and belief system.
That's
We need
right.
to go back home to what we used to be,
Yes.
added to the education we have right now. Because the stereotype they gave us then, those Baba, they are fetish, won't away, they are dirty. I am a
Mm.
graduate. If I harmed myself with the paraphernalia of Oshugbo and Ogboni, I'm going to be unstoppable with my
He's
level of
not going to do
education
the
and
same. He's
my
not going to
level
be
of
able to
education and
do something.
exposure. So those
Yes.
stereotypes that the babas that were in those things were illiterate, okay, wait. For those of us who are educated, as we are going back to take our rightful position in the traditional institution of our town, when we have done that and we're able to gather the numerical strength, a critical mass of us
Hmm.
embracing that, our policy making as a nation will start from the conclave. Ohun tí odó bá ti dé kò ní ríta. Kò sẹ́ni tó máa dalẹ̀
Onírìíta.
wa. Wọ́n ní ká fi èké máa wo ká fọ̀dàlẹ̀ ṣòro.
Hmm.
Because tó bá ti fèké máa wo tá fọ̀dàlẹ̀ mòrò, á ti restrain ẹ̀ kò ní lè dalẹ̀ mọ́.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Kò ní lè ṣèké mọ́. Yes, that is where I am going. The proliferation of deception, betrayal that is flying around, we will curb it. Èmi á ní pé màá mú ẹ wọnú rédíò Òṣùgbò, ẹ á jọ wọ̀. Tá bá ti wọ̀ tá rí lé, ìwọ wá jáde lẹ́yìn yẹn, kó sọ pé o fẹ́ betray ìlú. Kó wá rí bóyá ohun tó ń bí ni ò ní bí ẹ́. We will get there. Our numbers may be few for now when compared with the opposite host in view. But the unseen power that has aided this land over the years had not departed from us. Our
Yes.
ancestors, our forefathers are with us. I wish their eyes could be opened to see that those who are against us are not as many as those who are for us. For all
Wow.
our ancestors that have gone, they are solidly behind us. And
Hmm.
because of those people, we will, by the grace of Olodumare, this mandate, we will restore sanity. We will get back
Hmm.
our rightful place amongst the League of Nations. Ẹni tó bá ní kérin má wodò ni tòun
Odò
tẹ̀rín ló
ìtàkùn
máa
tó ní
lọ.
ká
Tòun
má
tẹ̀rín ló
wọdò.
lọ.
lọ́jọ́ lọ.
Òun
Thank you so
tòmìnrin
much,
lọ́jọ́
Gbogbo
Ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n.
lọ.
ẹni tó bá fẹ́ dí ìran Yorùbá lọ́wọ́,
Yes. So,
wọ́n máa parun ni.
okay,
Àmín.
right.
Àṣẹ àṣẹ.
Àmì àṣẹ.
Thanks, Mojagwa. No, I don't want this to go on on another tangent, but I want to say, much as I do appreciate, we appreciate your view. Loyalty is not supposed to be coerced. It's not supposed to be forced, and you're not supposed to spiritually, psychologically, mentally, or in any way get someone to be on your side. So that's why I don't kind of subscribe to that. If one thing about the Yoruba people that we've known from age wise is that we were built to be liberal, to have a liberal mind. And so when we
That's true.
decide to do something, it's because our convictions, it's because
And
our,
we believe in it.
sir?
It's because we believe in it.
Yes, because we believe in it. And Awolowo said it to
Hmm.
himself that a Yoruba man will not follow you because he thinks because you are Yoruba. That a Yoruba man will not come with you because you share the same tribal affiliates. He will come
He
because he
will come with
believes
you
in
because
you.
of his belief. Yes, that's
Yes,
true.
yes. So that's a tangent that we need to be kind of a little bit very
Bonka,
a gray area.
Yes,
Yes.
Bonka,
Now,
yes,
it's not
but
like that
let
anymore.
me
no.
let me
Mhm.
quickly chip in this.
I
Let
actually
me
wanted to
quickly
say
chip
something,
in
but I will step down, sir. Yeah. All right.
this. You see,
Yes, sir. Go on, sir.
I, I I want you to look at what Ojogbon is saying this way. You see, when you are laying a foundation for anything, you need to be sure that those who you are working with are committed. With those Awolowo, with whom he formed the Egbe Omo Oòduà in London, many of them may not be member of Ogboni, but they believe in what he was suggesting. And as a result of that, they got themselves seriously committed. I may not know, but I want to imagine that Alhaji Jakonde, for instance, it's not an Ogboni person. I know Uncle Bisi Onobanjo, maybe. But Alaji Jakonde, Alaji Daudu, I may not be too sure if they are Ogboni people. But honestly speaking, they are a total replica of Awolowo in their belief.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to
Yes,
cut in, sir. There's a white elephant in the room that I think we're trying to evade. And the issue with Awolowo was not loyalty. The issue with Awolowo was that there was an age-long rivalry between Ijebu and Oyo, between Ijebu and Ibadan, that has not been resolved when Awolowo emerged.
mm,
So I'm trying to work on thin ice here, but the truth sometimes needs to be told.
yeah,
One of the reasons this man refused to join Adelabu Penkelemes, right,
yes,
was because
mm,
and then he went on to found something and he called it Mabolaje. That was a symbol. It was a symbolic word, and
mm-hmm,
that was meant to make that point clear that he looked at the leadership at of AG then. He saw that there was a lot of Ijebu people there, and he said, "No, as an Ibadan man, I'm not supposed to work with you people of Ijebu ancestry." And if you notice, of all the kings, all of them keyed into Awolowo's philosophy. There was only one king that was kind of troublesome. We all know who I'm talking about, right, sir? You know what happened that ended up with having to dethrone the Alafin of Oyo, the father of the current
yes,
Alafin, right?
yes,
So and the one man that was loyal to him, that was a Oyo faction, Bode Thomas, when he got eliminated, that was what made Awolowo naked, proverbially, politically, because that was the only Oyo man that was with him, and he needed Oyo support,
mm.
right? Now, one of the things
But
that yes, sir.
let me remind you. Let me remind you that Akinloye gave Awolowo the much needed support at the beginning of his political career in the West.
Was he not the 12th to
Akinloye,
third lawyer?
huh?
Was he
and
not the
and
lawyer of the 12th to third?
yes, yes, and
Akinloye was the
Akinyemi
one that
Obe,
reversed Awolowo's mandate.
yes, and well, that's Akinjide, and I'm
Akinjide,
talking
sorry,
about
sorry,
the
sir.
yes, that was Akinjide. I'm talking about the beginning of Action Group in Western Region. Akinyemi Obe is also an Oyo man. You know, the thing with them, you see, Adelabu could not key into Awolowo because Adelabu was an ardent NCNC person before Action Group emerged. Just as Mama Layo in Abeokuta could
No,
also
no,
not
sir. He
key
was he
into
was IPP, sir. Adelabu was
Adelabu,
IPP. Yes, he was Ibadan People's Party. It was
Ibadan
after.
Progressive.
Yes, it was not NCNC. It was after that time he joined NCNC. It was after the 1951 elections that the six members of Ibadan, five of them led by Akin
Yes,
Loye, joined with Awolowo, and then Adelabu rejected and then joined with
exactly,
NCNC.
exactly, exactly. And you see, I want to agree with you that there was rivalry between Ibadan and Ijebu, yes, but not the entire Oyo province, because you still find many of them in the action group.
Sure.
Ayo
Are you sure
Roshiji
that
is an Ibadan man. Ayo Roshiji
Yeah,
was an
but
Ibadan
he
man.
turned against him after the just crisis. I mean, after the just situation, he turned against him and
Let,
went
let,
with Akintola.
let me remind you of some top Ibadan men who were with Awolowo. Layo was with Awolowo. He was an Ibadan man. There's this white minister too. I've forgotten his name. Who was also an Ibadan man. He has Ibadan men with him. You see, you are very, very correct that Ibadan had that rivalry, Ijebu Ibadan rivalry with him. But yet, the action group was very, very solid in Ibadan. In fact, those who are not action group, the best leader in Ibadan was Adelabu, who, when he died, who was because of his death, they went rampage. Yes, Adelabu was really, 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 really very powerful. But yes, you have some Ibadan men also with even in the Ijebu we are talking about. Even in Ijebu we are talking about. Yeah, Onobamiro turned against Awolowo later. Onobamiro is an Ijebu man from Agowoyi. So in the Second Republic, Olu Adebanjo from Agbowa, from Idowa, he turned against Awolowo too. The political era of that time, like you have rightly said, was completely liberal. People were free to go where they want. But what was working for Awolowo was that the few time he had in government, he was able to establish a welfare program that endeared him to the heart of many Yorubas, cutting across all barriers. This Tafa Adeoye, the Akoroma, they are all Ibadan men who were fighting against their own people because of Awolowo, just because of the progress they made. I think Yoruba land, like you have rightly said, Yoruba land is a typical modern civilized society where they allow you to be what you are, without necessarily, but you have to convince them. If you want them to support you, you have to convince them. So why
So,
I am,
sir, yes, sir.
yes,
One thing I wanted to quickly add in is that one of the things that gave Akintola so much confidence to be rebellious towards Awolowo was that he knew that he was going to get Oyo and Ibadan support. And immediately he was able to get Awolowo out of the way because, to be honest, what it took to actually get Awolowo in prison was Akintola. He was the one that did the job. He was the one that did the dirty
let, let,
job, so to
let,
speak. And I'm
let
sure
me chip
you.
in here.
Yes, I want to
Let,
land
let
on
me
something,
let
sir.
me let
Yeah,
me
yeah.
let me
All right.
quickly chip in here. Without NPC Amadu Bello Tafawa Balewa, Akintola would not have been able to achieve anything because
Right.
Akintola himself in Western region at that time, if not for the federal might that they brought into it, even Akintola himself will run away because it was so terrible in Western region that time that you don't even joke with it. If they meet you on the road and say Awo, and you refuse to say Awo, you are gone. It was so terrible at that time that
They even
but the
went
federal
after the
might came in.
professors, people like Wale
Eh?
Soyinka. They even went after the professors in the schools. Many of them started running to the east. Professor Aluko, Professor Soyinka at those
No.
times. Yeah.
And Aluko was an action group man. So, but when the federal might came and Tafawa Balewa said this, and that was it. At the federal parliament, the northerners were more. So, this game has been on for a very long time. At the Federal House of Representatives, the Western region, Eastern region, and Midwest region was not enough to vote out a motion. Whereas the North, they solidified themselves and they do whatever they want to do. So without the North at that time, and that's exactly the same thing some people are using against us now, because they know at the Senate and the representative, if we say election, the North will carry the day, and they now, subjugate themselves to the North and follow wherever the North is going. Whereas in the real sense of it, if we are allowed to take care of the situation ourselves, I tell you, at that time, 1963, we were talking about, I was already in secondary school. I was in class 2. It was a hell in Yoruba land. You dare not make a mistake. You meet them, they are coming and they say, Awo, Awo, Awo. You dare not make a mistake and say, power. Because that was what they were calling Akitola. If you say power at that moment, you are gone. But later, they brought in a lot of police, a lot of brought them in and they were beating people. And the farmers, that's where the origin of the Agbekoya. And the farmers came, started firing, opposing them from Jebubo, from all over the place. Such that not until the federal might came in, it was, Yoruba land was on total fire. So, but now, you see, this is exactly the same thing. Those in power in Yoruba land now are doing. But in their own case, it's going to be worse, because in the case of Akintola, Akintola was not. No, he didn't. Akintola was still defending his people. It was just like Awolowo he was fighting. Akintola, in fact, one of the statements of Akintola was that he would never work with the East, because why? Ìkejì á ní, ìkẹta á ní, ìkẹrin á ní, ìkarùn á ní. Ṣé àwọn nìkan yóò wà nínú? Ṣé èwo lọmọ Yorùbá wà níbẹ̀? That was Akintola. But those ones who are there now, my dear gentlemen and ladies, those who are there now, they are completely strange people. There is no aspect they feel concerned about their people at all. No aspect at all. And that is the danger ahead that this generation need to fight, because no, it's too often. Look at upon all that is happening. None of them is talking. No governor is supporting the people. No legislator is talking on behalf of the people. Everybody is just keeping quiet. So it's a very horrible thing.
Hello, sir. So thank you so
Yeah,
much for shedding light on that. And it's a good thing to note that even though we had these issues, this rivalry, right? It's interesting
yes,
how you have highlighted how some Oyo people, some Ibadan people were still really supportive of
yes,
the work that Baba Awolowo did, and
yes,
and and that
yes,
is that those are the things that we should be leveraging on as we look
yes,
onto the future to really find ways to bridge these cracks that we have
yes.
in our
Uh, ba-
society.
ba- yeah,
Baba,
Baba
yeah.
Alayande, Baba Canon Alayande,
Yes, sir.
he's an Ibadan man.
Yes, sir.
He's an
So,
Ibadan. He's an Ibadan man.
doctor,
Hey,
doctor,
Lamidi Adesina, Lam Adesina. He's an Ibadan man.
yes, sir.
Many of them. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir. Particularly because of your time, sir. Um,
mm,
I still want us to go back to the book, um, the Awoism, Exemplary, Integrity, and Welfarism that you
yes,
have written, and hopefully you are going to come back to us with the information on how our people can get a copy of that for themselves.
yes,
But before we
yes. We'll do that.
before we take questions from other people, sir, I would want you to
Yes,
quickly touch on a concept that you have introduced in this book called awonomics. And I would also want you to quickly touch on the need for new social order, and that is from the chapter 12 of your work. And
That's right.
after that, we can take questions and comments as we bring the session to a close.
Thank
Because
you
we,
very much.
sir, we would
On
definitely like you to come back and finish up the book. I know you're on a different time zone now, a different day.
No problem.
Okay, sir.
I'm enjoying my company with you, so no problem.
Thank you, sir.
I'm enjoying my company with you, no problem. On awonomics, I have tried to identify a list of mineral resources that spread across Yoruba land. I have identified them, its volume of availability, its area in each of the provinces. I have identified them. And those are things for your generation to work on. I have also identified potential importers from across the world who could patronize us, either exploring and exploiting the mineral resources across Yoruba land. In the area of agriculture, I have also identified those agricultural produce that used to be the major sources of revenue, both foreign revenue and local revenue in Yoruba land. And I have insisted that the cocoa industries in Ondo, in Lagos, and Ibadan must be revived. I have also revisited in consultation with my friend Professor Taiwo on the need to revive the agricultural engineering department of Obafemi Awolowo University, who are the one working on the design fabrication of tools, agricultural tools at Eleyele Ibadan. So they will do what Awolowo did at that time. Was there is a fabrication unit there, welders are there. But when it is designed at Ife, they will fabricate at Ibadan. It will go back to Ife for review, and then they will bring it back to Ibadan, and it will finally develop. Some will go to Onigambari, some will go to School of Agriculture, Akure, and so on and so forth. Now, in addition to that, cattle rearing. In fact, Professor Taiwo told me that in that Lalate area, the cow that Western region was breeding there, no bone, nothing. They are so healthy, so fat, such
At
that,
Fashola, sir.
yes, God bless you. So now, one Akinwande also gave the same clue about the same ranch in Akure and Ado. These are things that can be revisited. And all these ones are what Awolowo was using to generate revenue in his days. All the mineral resources were gathered. Agriculture, including in addition to rubber, rice, cocoa, and uh, cotton, all these things can be revived and generate much, 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 much for Western region. And most of these things that are identified, I have also identified working with Professor Taiwo, those who can be used to man each of these things. So that if today Yoruba land takes off from our projection, within the next 6 months, Yoruba land without oil, without anything, can generate trillions of dollars, because already there are foreign buyers who can be invited in to develop all this for us. So, and in course of research, I discovered, after working with some other friends too in Ibadan and Akure and other places, we discovered that what Awolowo was realizing from all these things that look so local was so enormous in those days. And you can now imagine transforming them into what it is today. Gone are the days when cocoa was being sold at £1 per ton, £1 per ton, two naira. The same cocoa now, as at the time I was compiling this book, the same cocoa, Ivory Coast was selling to France at over 3,000 per ton. And at that time, in 1956, 57, up to 1960, up to 1963, 62, after Ghana, Yoruba land came first with cocoa. Ivory Coast was number 3. So these are things that, when the time comes and your generation is ready to take over the country, there are enough materials for you without even looking at the oil sector at all. Whereas, even if you want to look at oil sector, Lagos State now have oil. Ondo State have oil. So these are the things that I have discovered, and I realized that those were the sources of Awolowo's revenue, with which he was running all these programs. And in Lagos State, I happen to be relatively close to Babajide Konde's administration at that time, because we were like maybe you say the youth. We were no more youth anyway, but we were seen as youth wing of the UPN. But we could see that when some idiots are saying Tinubu is generating a revenue in Lagos, I laugh, because these things are already there. Even if you bring an idiot, the money is already there. He's being smart by setting up Alphabeta, calling me consultant to be collecting this money and then taking care of 10% of it or whatever. He's just being smart. The money is already there. The money in Lagos State, my God, is even enough to give free education to the whole of Western Nigeria. So these are the things that Awolowo did, and he was so confident that he was not even looking at the federal side at all. And his team, the Bisi Onabanjo, Alhaji Jakode, Baba Ajasin, Bola Ige, Ambrose Ali, when they were there, to them it was like Abuja was not existing. It was like Shagari was not existing. If they bring the revenue, okay. If they don't bring they were not waiting for it. And that is what you call awonomics. He was the one who evolved all the sources of revenue. He was the one who developed it. He was the one who was making sure it works. And the way it was working, it was very, very easy. But what do we have now? Everybody just become governor, wait for Abuja to give them money, and then they share. So the opportunities are there, gentlemen. The opportunities are there. I can proudly and confidently tell you that if today Nigeria says, okay, your wahala is too much, go, and we sign the Treaty of Independence between Nigeria and the Dudua Republic. In fact, in the first 1 month, the legion of investors we have in Yoruba land, we won't believe it because the things are there. The things are there. We have identified them. We have document them. So all we're just waiting for is an opportunity for us to tell them, look at this. This is this. Look at this. This is this, and that's all. But if we are not very decisive and pragmatic, these bastards there will just continue to be living on the fine barrack, decent barrack coming from Abuja, and they will say they are running a country. Now, Yorubas are not supposed to be suffering at all because what we have on our land is more than enough. What is our population? Less than 100 less than 100 million. And from any of our mineral resources, gentlemen, from any of our mineral resources, what we will generate, I can tell you confidently that many countries in Africa cannot generate it. Because if you go through it, you will discover that virtually all type of mineral resources is what we have. So the opportunity are there for that, and you guys just need to work harder to see that
Thank,
the Yoruba nation emerge.
thank you so much. So essentially, I would not mix is the economic concept that is based on utilizing our resources, the resources found on our lands, without
Exactly.
even venturing into oil and gas. That these
Exactly.
resources are sufficient to power our
Economy.
to power our economy and ensure our
Yes.
prosperity as a people.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, because of our
Exactly.
time, we still have about 4 or 5 chapters that we have not captured, and hopefully, when next we call on you to come around, you'll be willing to come share with us some of this deep knowledge that you have shared with us today.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you so much, sir. So, because of our
No
time, we are going to take 1 or 2 people who have not spoken before.
problem.
If you have any
Okay.
comments or questions or contributions, please flash your mic so we can. Uh, Undiluted Yoruba, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you, Otumba. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Mr. Dr. Layo Adeniyi. And thank you, Bonka, as usual. So, I was just thinking while listening that, and just like Dr. Layo rightly said, I think the template is there if we have Yoruba Nation, the template of our ancestors, because at this point, I think I've categorized the late sage as part of our ancestors, right? Because if you
Right.
look at what, yeah, if you look at what the vision he had for his people was just similar to what the ancestors that started our race actually had for us as well. So, but I think so. The template is there, right? But I think what is missing, what is critical, is that ability. That discipline, that commitment, that overwhelming. I call it 101% commitment, right? That him and his life, talking about the Bola games, the Baba Jakonde, who, funny enough, the legacies of Baba Jakonde, the low-cost housing estate, are still the most, I don't know, housing estate that accommodates the people, the masses in Lagos State today. I don't think there's, if not until recent, that the Lagos Housing Development did a caricature housing program, right? It has always been the My Two, the First Stack. Those are the legacies, and So, but I think what is critically missing, even if we get the Yoruba Nation now, is that what made these men and women alike, what made them so committed? Because they are also humans, right?
if
Yeah.
you look at it from
Yeah.
that point of view. But something kept them in check always. And I think that is what, because my battery is getting low now, I'm trying to locate my charger. So I think that is what we also need to explore very well. So that eventually, if we get our nation, if we get the Yoruba nation, because for me, I think that's what made the difference there, right? So I want us to explore more on what actually binded them, because I want to believe that some of them, as human as we are, were also tempted, to be like the modern day politicians too. But something fundamentally kept them in check and committed.
You said.
And I want to learn more about what kept them in check. And as specific to, just to round up, to the late sage himself, I also want to learn more the role his wife, you know, the late HID Awolowo, the role the wife played in his political life, in his spiritual life, and every other part, holding him down, making him stable, making him focus, making him
Mm,
concentrate. I want
that's
to
right.
listen more because I know that we in our incitement about of talking about the late sage, we kind of maybe gloss over it or sometimes omit the role the late wife, Chief Mrs. HID Awolowo
You said,
played,
yeah, well,
played in the life of the late sage as well. So thank you everyone. I really learned a lot and I wish to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Uh,
you're welcome.
so do we have any other person with questions? Please, we would like to take questions. Um, Olofamojo, Mr. Lukotun, or anyone else on the stage. Do we have any other questions? Or if not,
Can I?
um, okay, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I just want to have a short contribution because a lot of people have been trying to compare themselves to Awolowo, especially in this our current dispensation. But
Yes.
we have to
No be
say
juju,
that
no be juju be that.
and Awolowo, Babala Awolowo will not keep quiet over the death of his people and go give money
Exactly.
to other people who have been victims of the same thing that they have been quiet about. I don't think Baba Awolowo will have flown in helicopter to Ikene why the people could not get a road. And Baba Awolowo will not be quiet when people are being massacred on the Yoruba land because of the political consequences. These are parallels that really want people to remember. It doesn't matter if anybody is married to the granddaughter of Awolowo. That does not give him the same love that Baba Awolowo have for the Yoruba people. I thought that was important for me to add. I'm sorry for just putting that parallel. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Let me quickly remind you this, throw you into a bit of laughter. Do you know Awolowo's card number? I still have it offered today. WR1455 is the number of his car. And that car, if Awolowo is in Akure, that is the car he is in. If Awolowo is in Ogbomoso, that is the car he's in. If he's in Ijebu Ode, that is the car is WR1455. So that tells you the kind of person the old man was. Then somebody talk about what made his lieutenants what they are. You see, one interesting thing I think is responsible for that is you want to be like them. You want your name. You want people to say that, he's the one who brought this. He's the one who brought this. He's the one who brought this. And he hasn't changed his car. He hasn't built another house. It was a kind of, what do I call it? do I call it spiritual or religious belief in him. And at that time too, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, the generation, our people at that time, they watch you. They watch you. If if you get political appointment today and you change your car, people will find their way. If it is at the state level, people will find their way and go to Jakonde to tell him that, you see, this man, since you appoint him as commissioner now, he doesn't see us anymore. He has even painted his house. He has even done this. And Jakonde, by extension, will call you and ask you, is it true you built a new house? And before he call you to ask you, he must have sent somebody to go and see. He will just wait for your explanation. When you come with your explanation, if you are appointed, they will remove you. If you are elected into it on the platform of UPN, the next election, if people stand up against you, they will say they should allow them to contest against you. And that singular act of you, even painting your house after getting being voted in, will finish you in that constituency. Because they will say, that was he has got that to serve himself. You see, immediately he was voted in. You see, he changed his car, he changed his house. That was this. That was the atmosphere at that time. And now I just begin to wonder when people start singing praises of somebody who just got political appointment and he changed his car, he changed his jeep, he changed his, he start building out, start throwing money around. Say, hey, you know, those are one of the things that that is responsible for what is happening these days. And I strongly believe your generation can draw back. And I think that's the advantage of listening to this kind of talk about Awolowo and Awolowo and Awolowo. It's going to help you a lot if you can embed that kind of discipline, so that everybody's ambition, everybody's desire will be, what have I been able to bring to my constituency? I think that is the very most important thing. And I will also want to think that it's also an opportunity for your generation, to be part of what we call Awoist movement. So that together you'll be brainstorming, you'll be researching into his policies, you'll also be researching into welfareism in other parts of the world and how it works, how it can be related to our situation at this point in time. There are a lot of work to be done, to move that country forward. But I still insist that much that we have so much to do, it is your generation who will do it, because you have the materials. In our own days, we have to buy books, buy this, to read, to write, to review. Today, you just Google, you get most of the information you want, and then you begin to work on it. So it's a very, very hard road to travel, but it's not too. You have the wherewithal. Let me keep repeating that. That you have the knowledge, you have the education, you have the exposure, you have everything it takes to make Yoruba land a great nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Moderators, I don't know if anyone else have got any comments or any contributions that you would like to make. Mr. Bonka, Yaduaye, Sister Didoyin. All right. If
Well,
not,
I just wanted to
okay.
say we're very
All right.
grateful. We're very grateful to have you here, sir. We've learned so much from you. And there are plenty of us here that are Awoist as well, especially the women. I know you were saying gentlemen a lot. We're jealous over here because we're here listening.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Um, so
ladies and gentlemen, I
we
can
thank you
see your money.
we thank you so much, and we're so honored to have you. And we look forward to having you again. I've heard you coughing so many times that you've been here like 5 hours already. I don't think you have even drank water. But we are very grateful again, and we look forward to having you in our midst again. Welcome home to
Welcome
Yoruba
anytime.
Nation, sir. This is your first time here, and we hope it won't be the last. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you so much. So, the mobile phone I'm using is not really allowing me to see the group chat any longer. I switched my phone. So, and I got a message now. Ocean Breeze asked the question that why are the people from southern part of Nigeria so morally corrupt? Uh, which I think it goes in the same direction as uh, you know some of the questions that people have asked. But before you go, doctor, if you can just speak on that for a minute, then we are going to play our national anthem, if you don't mind, sir.
Come on with the question.
Sir,
Can you repeat the question, please?
that's why have we been so morally corrupt in the southern part of Nigeria? This
Hmm.
generation, why have we been so morally corrupt?
Yeah. Well, when he says Southern Nigeria, I will not be able to speak for other
Let's
parts of
limit it
Southern,
to Yoruba. Let's limit it to Yoruba
but
land. Yeah.
yes, Yoruba land. I dare say that the present political dispensation is what makes Yoruba society dirtily and morally corrupt now. In the past years, during the past dispensation, like we said, it is your character, it is your integrity, it is your name, it is your association with your community that earn you political office. If you want to contest an election, the first thing people think about in your constituency is Omotani. Omolagbaja. Okay. Omotani. Omo Muraino. Ibabe no Shewonjo. That disqualifies you immediately. Now, but if they say, how many of them are contesting? About three. Bolaji is one of them. Bolaji Toshetoni last week. Somebody, this one is one of them. Toshetoni Ibadan. This one, gbogbo àwọn ọmọ tó mọ̀ wí dáadáa ni wọ́n yẹn. It is the three of you will contest, and you don't need to spend any money or give anybody a dime. Your character, your association with your community, your commitment to the community are the things they will look at. No, Bolaji is always here. Anytime he's no. He knows our problem here. I know about Muhyiddin too. Yeah, it's true. The other time they are clearing that road, Muhyiddin was there. Those are the things they will look at in the last dispensation. But since the beginning of this dispensation, ladies and gentlemen, it has been political office has become a material for the highest bidder. The merchants, political merchants, took over the whole thing. You can go and steal money to come and give us. That's your own business. You can carry cocaine. That's your own business. You can do 419. That's your own business. Once you come and you begin to throw money, Bolaji give us 10,000. Okay, you people share this. Another one come give 20,000. Another one come 50,000. Another one come and say, "Sell enough for Gbogbo that's only a pariwo. I got 200,000." Finish. The man who gave them 200,000, they don't care whether he's a cocaine pusher, whether he's a drug addict, whether he's they don't care. So as a result of that, when such people get into office, the first thing they think of is these are people of countable character. Anyway. So you don't expect them to be honorable where they are. The first thing they do is dip their hand into the treasury and bring out money. And then when they bring out this money, they begin to spread it all over, flash it among the vagabonds that follows them up and down. Gradually, money becomes valueless in the Yoruba society. Morals have no price in the Yoruba society anymore. Greed have no place. It's highly honored. You can be greedy. This is what spoiled the Yoruba society. And that is what is spoiling it up to today. But the very moment you turn around the whole thing and introduce a completely new social order, that somebody who doesn't even have money but have idea is the one that is voted in. And within 6 months, development is in the land, is being witnessed. You say things will change. So now there is easy money. There is easy money. Everybody wants easy money. Because once you go into politics, you are rich. That is precisely what is responsible for the Yoruba land situation. Like I said, the other regions I may not know. But my people, this is precisely what is the problem with them. This is precisely what is the problem with my people. So that's the answer to that.
All right, thank you so much, sir. So owó náà ni owó ní gbogbo ẹ̀ṣẹ̀.
Oh,
Ah, ó lágbára, ẹ ṣeun, sir. So bàbá wa, a tún máa pè yín lọ́jọ́ míì. A lérò pé tá a bá pè yín, ẹ máa tún wá.
no problem.
Thank you
No
so much,
problem.
sir.
Anytime.
All right, sir. Ẹ ṣeun. Olódùmarè á
Okay.
máa bùkún yín o. So, ladies
Amen.
and gentlemen, Sister Adedoyin, ladies and gentlemen,
Otoba, please repeat that very well. Repeat that.
ladies and
Ladies and
gentlemen,
gentlemen.
I hope we have learned one or two things today. Uh, it is one thing to learn. It is another thing to internalize and utilize these lessons of life.
That's true.
That otherwise, if we do not have platforms like this to educate and challenge ourselves, because it is so easy that in our daily struggles that we also get entangled in some of these
That's true.
things that are pervasive in our society. Who doesn't want
Yes.
money, right? Who doesn't want to be rich? Who doesn't like
Yes.
gigantic cars? Who doesn't want to have their well starched agbada and their disguised Awolowo's art, even though they do not represent what Awolowo stood for.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
as we start to key into Awolowo's political ideology, as we try to key in into Awolowo's general worldviews and ideologies and perspectives and worldviews, we should not be Awoists just because we are learning about these things. We must endeavor to be Awoists because the lessons that we have learned from his personality, we want to apply it not when we are in political offices alone, but in our daily living, in our
Exactly.
interactions with our people, with our fellow
Yes.
Yoruba brothers or fellow Yoruba
Yes.
sisters. And don't forget that Baba Wolowo is not an hater of Igbo people or
No,
Fulani
not at
people
all.
or
It's
Hausa
just,
people. He just
my brother,
loved.
his driver, Awolowo's driver was an Igbo man.
Mhm. So he
Awolowo's
just,
driver was and all his children, it was Awolowo who trained them.
wow. So
Yes.
Awolowo loved everyone, but he loved his people most.
Yes. More.
So
More.
you
More.
cannot do whatever you want to do, say whatever you want to say about this man, but you are not going to be able to take that away from him
Not
in
at
terms
all.
of his integrity, and that is one thing that our father, who is our special guest today, has continuously echoed on. And in fact, the title of the book is Awoism, Exemplary, Integrity and Welfarism. So
Yes,
when you talk about Awolowo, you are talking about integrity. And
exactly.
and he did not bring this integrity from the skies, from heaven.
No.
He
Mm.
built it. Just like you and I.
Yes.
Awolowo was
Yes.
just once a common man. But today,
Mm.
years after his departure, years after his death, we are still talking about him. And when we opened this
Exactly.
session today, our father told us that his life's mission wouldn't have been said to be completed without writing about Awolowo. He
Yes.
recognized that he would not have fulfilled his calling, his dreams,
Yes.
his visions, if he has not put pen to paper and write a book about his experiences about Awolowo.
Yes.
And
Yes.
many of these books that we see flying around, there are a lot of books out there that
Oh yes.
that
Oh
people have
yes.
written, as a result of their relationship or experiences with Baba Awolowo. So now the ball is in our court.
Yeah.
what we what would the generation coming after us, what would they say about us? Oh,
Yes.
that yeye man is only going to use Baba Babawolowo's eyeglasses and hat. Is a
Mm.
lie. Is a lie. In Yoruba land today, we know all of them. In AD, we know. We know all of them. And somebody was talking about all of this. I'm not going to mention names. All of these other people who worked closely with Awolowo. But today, they are with AD, they are with APC, they are looking for the next
Even
contract,
PDP.
they are in
Even
PDP.
PDP.
So they
Even
are on.
PDP.
So don't and to us again, don't let us allow
My dear,
anybody.
my dear,
Yes, sir.
4 years ago,
Yes, sir.
about 4 years ago, I met Baba Tope at a function. And after greeting and talking, I asked him, Ebinotopsy, if Baba were to be alive, will you be in PDP? Is it not thinking that you, organizing secretary of the UPN, you, a one-time Awoist in PDP, then he said, oh, doctor, I just laughed. But these were people who, at that time, when they are coming to Awolowo, they will wear ordinary clothes. They will wear ordinary t-shirt. They were behaving as if yes, they really imbibe Awolowo's doctrine, not knowing that they were doing it because of what they stand to benefit. And he's not only the one. Oh, Uncle Adebanjo. I met him sometimes too. I think no, last year. Last year I was in Nigeria, and one of my in-laws was doing something at Jebugo, and I went there, and he came. I met him. I greeted him. I prostrated and greeted him. Then I said, "Uncle." He said, "Yes." I said, "No, supporting." I'm not saying that you shouldn't. You should compulsorily support uh, Buhari, because we all knew what he did in 1983. But supporting the Jonathan PDP, uncle, you confuse me. You confuse me. A socialist and always supporting PDP. Say, that bá ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ nítorí ìwà tí Bọ́lá hù. Then I say, excuse that. Forget about Bola. Forget about Buhari. Yes, I will not support Bola for anything, because it's not my stuff of person. I will not support Buhari for anything, because Buhari, all the industries that Jakonde cited in Ekpe, one in Agbawa, one in Eshala, it was Buhari's government that destroyed it. And nobody has revived it up to date. So I said, for that, I won't support it. But sir, PDP, he said, well, Layo, bó bá ṣe rí náà la máa ṣe ṣe. This, I'm giving you these examples because of what you just said. That you see, it is one thing for you to believe. I mean, to say you are an Awoist. It's another thing for you, for your action to show it. How can somebody like Ebenezer, how can he be PDP? How can somebody like Ayo Adebayo, Uncle Ayo Adebayo be supporting PDP? Come on, what's all that? So, like you said, it has to do with, with whom they were. But then again, what you're going to ask yourself is, so thank God these people did not have the opportunity to administer anything under Awolowo. Maybe they would have even spoiled the man's image. Who knows? Maybe they would have been colliding with MPN for whatever they're going to get from it. So that's where your generation need to work very hard and make sure that, you know, already you are in the society where greed is not encouraged. And that must have soaked you deep into that thinking that what I can do to establish my name as one of those, you know, who ruled Yoruba land if the opportunity comes is this. Because when we are saying, okay, we're talking about Awolowo, we will say the same thing about Ajashi. We will say the same thing about Jakonde. Even Uncle Balagi, we will say the same thing about them. Because none of them abuse their offices. So if we're talking Awoism, like you rightly said, it must be in our character too. It must be in our character too. We should stand up for Yoruba land. It doesn't matter at what cost. Not that you say because I'm in a position that they will be killing Yoruba here, they will be killing Yoruba there, and I will keep quiet. And I say because if I don't keep quiet during the election, they will not vote for me. And so what? Let them go with their election if they don't want to vote for me. But at least my people will know that when they were in trouble, I was with them. So may God help us.
àṣẹ bàbá. ẹ̀yin náà lẹ sọ pé àbọ̀rọ̀ òun là ń sọ fún ọmọlúàbí
Ọmọlúàbí, bẹ́ẹ̀
pé
ni,
tó bá wá dénú ó máa wá di odidi.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni.
A dúpẹ́ pé ẹ jẹ́ wa ní òwò lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí. So enough has been said. Kí gbogbo wa náà ká tuntun rò èyí tó bá yẹ ká mú lò ká mú lò. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. So I'll be playing Yoruba national anthem as we bring this session
Otumba,
to this.
sorry, Otumba, just 1 minute. I think Balogun
Okay,
has something to share real quick
okay.
before we close
Balogun.
the room.
All right, Balogun, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so it's been a wonderful session because I wasn't able to talk. I was just on listening mode. I just finished what I was doing now. So yes, very importantly, well, in gbogbo wa ń jà fún náà ní òmìnira Yorùbá. So I will probably maybe for 2 minutes, we might have some of us in the audience joining us for the first time and they are not aware of òmìnira Yorùbá. Maybe one of us can actually post the link so that those that have not been opportune to hear about it could use that as an avenue to quickly click on the link and sign in their petition because we want our 5 million votes. Basically, at the end of the day, gbogbo wa náà nǹkan tá a fẹ́ ni pé kí Èdùmàrè kó fún wa ní òmìnira wa káwa náà lè dá dúró ká bá lè padà sí kí gbogbo nǹkan ṣe wà tẹ́lẹ̀. So yes, maybe someone can, one of the mods can put the link there, omnirayoruba.org, 2022.org, so that àwọn tó wà ní audience tí wọn tí láǹfààní àti tẹ̀ka sórí website náà bí wọ́n lè fi àǹfààní ẹ̀ fi ṣe. So yes, nǹkan tí mo kọ̀ fẹ́ sọ náà nìyẹn. Oòduà gbé gbogbo wa o.
Ashe, thank you so much. So, Yoruba national anthem.
ipò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ. Ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. I'll be handing the room in 3, 2, 1.